Chapter 6:21. Boom. On the high platform, the divine light rumbled, and the light swept across the sky and the earth. The scene was too shocking. 4 saints joined hands to besiege Lin Sun. It was shocking. Buzz. The void trembled. Nyo Tunshin waved his trident, and the sharp blade released monstrous, killing intent, cracking the void. This blow was extremely terrible. His long hair was loose, and he was extremely domineering. Now that he was ready to kill, the power he released made many strong people tremble. On the other side, Meng Lianqing's figure was illusory, flowing with golden divine light, and her breath was holy and dazzling. She held a cyan vase in her white and slender hand, from which a hazy rain of light gushed out. It seemed soft and beautiful, but wherever it passed, the void collapsed. That was the submerged cloud precious air bottle. The light rain that gushed out could annihilate all living things, and anyone who was touched by it might be doomed eternally. This was the ancestral weapon of the Golden Phoenix clan. Boom. Kong Xiu's fighting method was the most violent. His whole body was flowing with thunder and lightning, like a god bathed in thunder and lightning. He was powerful and domineering. Similarly, Xian Luozi was not inferior. His blue long hair fluttered in the wind, and he held a dreamy blue spear in his hand. His figure flashed like lightning, and he had a peerless sharpness that sank the void. Any one of these 4 top holy princes would be able to dominate a region and defeat most experts of the same cultivation level. Now, they attacked Lin Sun together. Such a scene was absolutely shocking and rare in the world. If it was spread to the outside world, it would cause a sensation in the whole cultivation world. After all, a battle of this level was too rare. Rumble. In the ancient Taoist field, the fierce battle continued. The wind and clouds changed color, and the roar was endless, surging through the 9 heavens and 10 earths. The divine light there was so blazing that it completely submerged Lin Sun's figure, making it almost impossible to see the situation inside. But there was no doubt that Lin Sun had been completely suppressed. This made all the strong people at the foot of the mountain palpitate and horrified. What was a top saint? That was it. They pointed at the heavens and smashed the earth with peerless divine might, and their graceful bearing reigned supreme. Now that they'd attacked ferociously together, who could resist such might? If they were to ask themselves honestly if it was any one of them, they would probably have been wiped out on the spot a long time ago, and they would absolutely be unable to survive. That young fiend celestial will be executed. This was the common understanding of most powerhouses. How could they fight like this? Just one of the peerless saints had the ability to kill that young fiend celestial. What more when 4 peerless saints attacked together? The young fiend celestial was destined to die. What a pity! Su Xingfeng and the others' expressions were incomparably gloomy. In fact, they were the most confused and depressed ones. They were eager for Lin to be killed so that they could vent their anger, but at the same time, they didn't want to see Lin killed like this. The reason was very simple. They were still thinking about the pagoda and fortuitous encounters in Lin Sun's possession. If he was killed, then it would be equivalent to Nyo Tunshin and the others benefiting from it. Therefore, at this moment, Su Xingfeng and the others were extremely depressed. Their faces were not looking good either. If this boy dies, there will be a lot less fun in the struggle for the Great Way in the future. Xiao Ran, who had been silent all this time, suddenly sighed softly. His feelings towards Lin Sun were the most complicated. There was admiration, fear, and an indescribable emotion. At this time, Zhao Jingxian and Old Toad's hearts were in their throats, and it was difficult to conceal the worry between their brows. This battle had happened too quickly and too fiercely. It was unexpected and exceptionally worrying. Don't worry. That boy definitely won't do anything stupid. Old Toad murmured. He was clearly consoling himself. Definitely. Zhao Jingshuan's response was very firm. Although she could also see that Lin Sun was in a precarious situation, she didn't think he would be killed at all. A person like him would either have his name immortalized for generations to come, or he would go down in infamy for thousands of years. It was absolutely impossible for him to die so casually. This was Zhao Jingxuan's point of view. She understood Lin Sun's past, knew his nature, and was even more aware of the miracles that had happened to him. Now, would there be another miracle? Yes, Zhao Jingxian said in her heart. Lin Sun was in a very strange state at this time. There was a flame of war burning in his heart, and his blood was like lava, boiling, roaring, and exploding. It was an ancient fighting intent, pure and overbearing, wild and violent. Swish! His figure was flashing, and he moved in the void with ice drake step. Although he was completely suppressed by the terrifying attacks from all directions, ice drake steps still showed marvelous and unpredictable changes in the confined space. Boom! He was still fighting with his bare hands, fighting with the 9 strikes for shaking heaven. His fists were filled with Taoist rhymes, sometimes with the power to split mountains, sometimes with the power to split the sea, sometimes with the image of soul shattering, and sometimes with the power of pythons, dragons, and phoenixes. Every punch was clean and direct, mellow and smooth, deducing the mystery of this ancient inheritance from the heaven-accessing place to the fullest extent. At this moment, Lin Sun's black hair was fluttering, his black eyes were deep, his figure was flickering, and his whole body was flowing with roaring Taoist rhymes. He seemed to be completely suppressed and covered by all kinds of attacks, but he was not embarrassed. On the contrary, he gave people a feeling that he could advance and retreat freely and calmly. It was like dancing in the sea of fire and knives. Looking around, there was danger, but he was detached from the mortal world. Fearless. Only these 2 words could appropriately describe Lin Sun's state at the moment. His whole body was steaming with ancient fighting intent, and his heart was empty and in harmony with Tao. Even though it was an extremely dangerous battle, he'd taken this battle to be a form of tempering and used it to verify his own path towards the Tao. Boom! His spirit was released, and the Tao that belonged to himself was gradually appearing and deducing. Previously, he passed through 6 peerless thunder tribulations, sublimated to the extreme, and transformed into a perfect Tao. Later, he was washed away, listened to the sound of Tao in the ancient palace, and reconstructed his own Tao in the understanding. All of this accumulation and transformation had established his current path towards the Tao that stood at the absolute peak, and it was perfect and without any flaws. Before this kind of rare foundation and power had not really appeared in the world. At this time, facing the siege of 4 top saints, Lin Sun finally had a chance to completely release and prove himself. Fight. Only by fighting in person could one prove the strength of one's Tao. At this moment, Lin Sun fully understood this point. Not only was he fearless, but he also had a desire in his heart. Everything in front of him was not enough. He needed a stronger power to fight against himself. This desire was so strong that it made his blood boil and roar. His blood and qi seemed to be burning, and his momentum became more and more powerful, disturbing the wind and clouds. Niu Tunshan's pupils suddenly shrank, and a trace of surprise appeared on his arrogant face. He was keenly aware that Lin Sun's breath was getting stronger. This shocked him, and he almost couldn't believe it. Facing the oppression of the 4 of them, this human teenager was not killed immediately, but was still getting stronger? How was this possible? Something is wrong, Meng Lianqing whispered, and her clear eyes were glittering with golden light. She also found something strange and wrong. Originally, she was full of confidence, thinking that with the power of the 4 of them, they could kill Lin Sun in a flash. Who would have thought that this human teenager not only persisted until now, but his breath was gradually getting stronger, which made her a little surprised. How could there be such a freak in this world? Xiao Keng and Xian Luozi's faces darkened. They naturally noticed this. Originally, they were full of confidence and even a little disdainful, thinking that they had overestimated Lin Sun. But now, they suddenly realized that they had underestimated and despised this teenager from beginning to end. According to the fighting strength he had shown so far, he could even compete with any one of them. Kill. At this moment, Niu Tunshan, Meng Lianqing, Xiu Keng, and Xian Luozi all put away their contempt in their hearts. They became serious and used their real strength, no longer holding back. Their eyes were full of determination and killing intent. They couldn't tolerate Lin Sun's survival. Originally, the four of them had already damaged their dignity. If they couldn't kill this human teenager in the end, it would be a disgrace to all of them. If the news spread, they were destined to be reduced to a foil and become a laughing stock. What? At the foot of the mountain, the overmatches of all races also realized that something was wrong with the situation. The battle had been going on for almost a quarter of an hour, but there was still no winner, which was too abnormal. This young devil is amazing. He can hold on until now, which is enough for him to fight head-on. His fighting strength is not weaker than any of the other four at all. Some people were shocked. Perhaps Niu Tunshan and the others underestimated and neglected Lin Sun, which gave him a chance to breathe. There were also many overmatches who didn't take it seriously. In their view, Lin Sun had been suppressed all the time, which was like a cat playing with a mouse. It was a kind of teasing and contempt. It didn't mean anything that Lin Sun didn't die in a short time. No, you're all wrong. The young devil is very strong. Can't you see that his aura is getting stronger and stronger? Some people with sharp eyes could see some of the truth. They couldn't help but be shocked and exclaim. This made many people look at Lin Sun in surprise. How could this be? Su Xingfeng and the others were depressed and confused again. They didn't want to see Lin Sun killed, but when they saw that Lin Sun didn't die immediately, they were unwilling and resentful. In short, they were destined not to be happy today. I'm wrong. There's no need to wait for the future. Now he already has the strength of a leg length with me, Xiao Ran murmured. He rarely lost his composure, and the pride and confidence in his heart were shaken at this moment. Originally, in his view, Lin Sun was an extremely admirable opponent, but if Lin Sun wanted to fight against him, he needed more growth and tempering. But now, Xiao Ran found that there was a trace of error in his understanding and judgment. There was no need to wait for the future. The current Lin Sun already had the qualification to fight against him. It turns out that I still underestimated him. Xiao Ran felt a little complicated. However, he quickly calmed down, and his expression was as calm as an ancient well. As a peerless figure, his pride and Tao heart wouldn't be shaken because of this. Chapter 6:22. Young man, become stronger. Kill those bastards and let those who look down on you tremble in fear. Since ancient times, which peerless figure did not kill all the way to the top? Which powerful figure did not step on mountains of corpses and seas of blood to prove his Tao? Want to compete for the top? Simple, set a small goal and kill all the enemies in the world first. Old Toad was so excited that it howled loudly, spittle flying everywhere. He also found signs of Lin Sun becoming stronger, which made him feel excited and unable to calm down. Zhao Jingxian pursed her lips and said nothing, but her beautiful eyes were shining. Lin Sun was still in a dangerous situation, but she saw a glimmer of hope. Small as it was better than despair. Boom! The battle continued. Not long after, Niu Tunshan suddenly let out a long roar, his voice shaking the 9 heavens, his divine power overbearing. Dark light gathered all over his body, and the golden trident in his hand made a buzzing sound. It broke through the sky, surging with Tao and blooming with golden light. In an instant, it seemed to pierce through the universe. This was a killing move, terrifying and shocking, which made everyone's heart palpitate. Realizing that Niu Tunshan was really angry, he began to use his killing move. Puff! Suddenly, Lin Sun's figure trembled, and he staggered back. He could not dodge. For one thing, this attack was too powerful, but more importantly, Meng Lianqing and the others were also attacking from the other three directions, blocking his escape route. This was the danger of being besieged. As the saying goes, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands, not to mention that his opponents were 4 peerless saints. Old Toad's voice stopped abruptly, and he became nervous again. All the strong people present were boiling, realizing that the battle had entered the most intense stage, and the 4 peerless saints no longer held back. This was a peak battle, extremely rare. Even if they were unwilling, they had to admit that Lin Sun was really strong, and had the foundation to stand shoulder to shoulder with the peerless saint. Even if he was killed in this battle, it was believed that his name would be known by all the major races. After all, it was too rare and dazzling for such a peerless figure to emerge from the human race. The battle grew more and more intense, and it firmly drew the attention of everyone present here. The experts of the various races didn't even blink as they held their breaths in concentration, and they practically forgot to breathe as they were deeply afraid of missing the slightest detail. Niu Tunshin used his killer move. It was as if a true bull demon had descended upon the world, rampaging through the universe. The halberd danced in the sky. It was so domineering that it made people's hearts tremble. Meng Lianqing became even more pure and holy as golden light fluttered around her like tassels, and the submerged sunglow treasured air bottle in her hand emitted the sound of the Tao as it sprayed out a myriad of dreamlike rain of light. It was beautiful to the extreme, yet dangerous to the extreme. Rumble! Thunderstorms surged, and arcs of electricity flickered through the sky. Kong Xiu attacked, grasping lightning, murderous and ruthless as she displayed her clan's secret precious technique. On the other side, Xian Luozi's dark blue and illusory spear flashed up, and it transformed into numerous spear images that covered the heavens and the earth and swallowed the sky like a tide. Killer moves and secret techniques were appearing, ancestral artifacts and Tao rhymes were resonating. Every single attack could be described as world-shocking. Now that all of them were being displayed on the dojo, the scene was simply magnificent and terrifying. The exclamations of the audience almost never stopped. No one could imagine that they, as the top saints at the same level of Tao Insight Realm, could be so tyrannical. Perhaps this was the gap between the Chosen One and the ordinary strong. Although they were all in the same realm, in this realm, the Chosen One stood proudly on the top of the mountain, overlooking all the heroes. Ordinary strong people could only linger at the foot of the mountain and look up. The two were destined to be worlds apart. That human boy hasn't been killed yet? However, to the horror of all the strong people, even under such a terrible attack, Lin Sun still persisted and did not show any sign of falling down. This discovery shocked all the people present. They gasped and realized an extremely serious problem. If one of the 4 top saints was replaced by Lin Sun, would he be able to persist until now under such a siege? It seemed there was not much hope. After comparing in their hearts, the faces of the strong people of all races changed. Did this mean that in a one-on-one situation, any one of Niu Tunshin was doomed to be no match for the young devil god? As soon as this judgment came to their minds, all the strong people present were silent and awed. Until now, they had to admit that the young devil god was really too powerful and fierce. He was alone, but he could fight against 4 top saints without being defeated. How many people in the world could have such terrifying combat power? The faces of Su Xingfeng and the others became gloomier and gloomier. Xiao Ran sighed softly with mixed emotions. Old Toad and Zhao Jingxian rekindled their hope. At this moment they were also very shocked. They could not know how powerful Lin Sun was in Tao Insight Realm. All the heroes at the foot of the mountain had different feelings. In the dojo, Niu Tunshin and the other 3 top saints, who were fighting fiercely, could not calm down either. They had all used their killing moves and showed their real skills. They had thought that it was enough to make Lin Sun be doomed eternally and unable to struggle. But the result was completely beyond their expectation. Lin Sun, who was besieged by them, became braver and stronger as he fought. How could this be possible? Even if they were proud and confident, they still felt a little strange and unacceptable when they noticed such a change. They didn't know when, but their faces became solemn and gloomy, and there was a trace of unprecedented anger and fear in their hearts. They were the chosen ones and the saints of all races. They were the focus of attention and thought that they stood at the peak of the same realm and could defeat all enemies. However, at this moment, the battle with Lin Sun was like a stick that made them suddenly realize that there was someone stronger than them at the peak of the same realm. Like a king standing on the top of the mountains. How could this be? Feelings of surprise and doubt surged in their hearts like a tide. They did not dare to relax and became more and more ferocious. They could not bear to be compared with Lin Sun. Rumble! The whole Taoist field fell into a terrible chaos. Divine lights shot out and turbulent flows surged. Whether it was the overmatches at the foot of the mountain or Nyo Tunshin, they seemed to have completely forgotten that there was an amazing opportunity in the center of the Taoist field. It could be seen how unparalleled and shocking this battle was. It attracted the attention of all the people present and made them unable to move their eyes away. Is that all you have? Too weak. Suddenly, there was a roar in the Taoist field, clear and loud like a bell and drum, shaking the heaven and earth, revealing a sense of dissatisfaction. It was Lin Sun. At this moment, his whole body was filled with blazing divine light, and his Taoist rhyme was roaring like a dragon, causing the heaven and earth to resonate. Battle intent that surged and blazed like lava surged within his deep black pupils, and every single move he made seemed like a king that swallowed the world. At this moment, he was indeed too powerful to be stared at. He was still barehanded, but he had a kind of great spirit that deterred the crowd. The overmatches of all races were trembling. Was this young devil really impossible to suppress? Wasn't he too strong? Kill all these bastards. F***ck them. That's how I feel. I'm about to die from anxiety. The old toad was so excited that he danced and shouted, attracting the angry glares of the overmatches. But he was disdainful, rolling his eyes and ignoring them. This made the overmatches gnash their teeth in hatred, but no one made a move at this time. The power of the prohibition on the mountain was still there. The old toad had entered the ancient palace and comprehended the inheritance, so he was protected by the prohibition. Moreover, at this moment, no one was in the mood to argue with the old toad. The battle had come to the most critical moment, and their minds were drawn. In the Taoist field, Nyo Tunshin and the others were shocked and angry. They were completely enraged, and their divine power became more and more terrifying. However, Lin Sun seemed to be still dissatisfied. He frowned and said, "Haven't you eaten? Come on, or you will lose." Haven't eaten. Nyo Tunshin and the others had the impulse to vomit blood. This guy's words were too harsh. He should be cut into pieces. Boom. Nyo Tunshin roared, his eyes bloodshot. He looked like a mad ox demon, completely in a berserk state. The trident was waved about by him, causing the void to collapse. Meng Lianqing, Xiao Kong and Xian Luozi also gritted their teeth and deduced their strength to the limit. They were so angry that they went berserk. So not bad. Lin Sun evaluated while fighting fiercely. He seemed to be provoking them, but in fact, his heart was calm. In his mind, the bloody battle map of the sky echoed. This secret map came from the Jade Archive and Golden Book. In it, there was an unruly figure fighting all the way from the 9 serenities to the 9th heaven. Along the way, there were mountains of corpses and seas of blood, and he buried all his enemies. He fought like a madman and looked down on the world. The ancient battle intent in the map was pure and overbearing, like a force that reached straight to the heart, igniting one's blood and boiling one's whole body. Up until now, Lin Sun had developed his own path of cultivation. He had tempered himself through battles and comprehended the profound meaning of fighting through battles. Thus, the more he fought, the fiercer he became. In his days, the figure in the battle diagram seemed to overlap with him, and it allowed Lin Sun to comprehend the essence and true essence of battle even more clearly. Fight. There was no need for a reason. If the sky obstructed him, he would tear it apart. If the earth restrained him, he would trample through it. There was only one thing to rely on: fight. The bell tolled for those who pursued the Tao, and the battle song was played for the strong. Fight. Lin Sun's black hair fluttered. He completely forgot the sky, the earth, and the man. His heart was boiling, and he only wanted to fight to his heart's content. At this moment, Lin Sun finally comprehended it. A ray of light flashed in his black eyes, like the first ray of light that tore the darkness apart. So the inheritance in the Jade Archive and Golden Book is called the Fighting Saint Technique. Boom. At this moment, Lin Sun was completely different. His battle intent soared into the sky, and his eyes were cold and disdainful. His figure seemed to be burning in the flames of war, making the world wail. He waved his arm and punched. Boom. What kind of punch was this? It was simple and direct, but it contained an invincible and unparalleled strength. Merely the battle intent it emitted made the world pale. Bang! A dark blue and dreamy spear seemed as if it was struck by lightning, and it was blasted flying with a rumble. At the same time, Xian Luozi's body stiffened. His pupils dilated and were filled with disbelief and horror. But in the end, he couldn't help but cough up a large mouthful of blood. His figure staggered backward in the void. Chapter 6:23. One punch. Xian Luozi coughed up blood and retreated with injuries. When they saw this scene, the experts at the foot of the mountain felt their scalps numb and almost exploded. This young demon god was going to launch a counterattack? This shocked and surprised everyone. It was hard to believe. Even the four saints couldn't suppress the young demon god. How could there be such a heaven-defying genius in the Tao Insight realm? It was too terrifying. That punch, Xiao Ran's heart trembled. His usual transcendent expression became extremely solemn. It was too terrifying. There was nothing fancy about Lin Sun's punch. It was extremely simple. It was so natural that Xiao Ran felt his heart palpitate. What kind of punch was that? Xiao Ran was shocked and lost in thought. Kill. Kill him until the sky and earth are turned upside down. Old Toad shouted. He has never been suppressed. Zhao Jingshuan's clear eyes were bright. She could see that Lin Sun had never been afraid from the moment the battle began. On the contrary, he regarded Niu Tunshin and the other saints as whetstones to sharpen himself and refine his martial arts. Obviously, the scene before them proved that he was about to succeed. Su Xingfeng and the others felt cold. The situation kept changing, making them depressed. At this moment, they were so aggrieved that they were about to vomit blood. They didn't expect Lin Sun to be so powerful. They were horrified and felt an indescribable sense of fear and frustration. This man must be eliminated. This was what they had thought a long time ago. But at this moment, it was unprecedentedly strong and firm. The crowd was in an uproar. In the ancient Taoist rite, because Xian Luozi was forced back by a punch, Niu Tunshin and the others also changed their expressions and felt an indescribable pressure. The young demon god had metamorphosed. At this moment, he was like an indomitable god of war. His blood was boiling and his spirit pierced through the ninth heaven. Just by standing there, he gave people a kind of oppressive force that almost suffocated them. Even the proud and conceited Niu Tunshin and the others felt an illusion of being suppressed and awed. He was too strong. They couldn't imagine how such a heaven-defying monster could appear in the Tao Insight realm. Even in the ancient times, such a monster was probably rare. Kill. In the struggle for supremacy in the Grand Tao, the courageous come first. If I'm defeated today, then what qualifications would I have to compete with all the geniuses in the world when the true grand era arrives? Niu Tunshin took a deep breath and let out an angry roar that shook the universe. This was a resolute attitude, but it was also a confidence and attitude that belonged to a heaven's chosen. To be able to become a top-notch saint, none of them were simple. On the contrary, their foundations, talents, battle prowess, and wisdom were all top-notch. They knew very well that if they were defeated by Lin Sun today, it would definitely leave a shadow in their hearts. Unless they could kill Lin Sun, otherwise, no matter how dazzling their path towards the Tao was, they would only be a foil to Lin Sun. Fight! Meng Lianqing's eyes shone with a golden light. Her fighting spirit became firm again, and she had a fearless spirit. This was a top-notch saint. It was no fluke that he could have his current achievements. Boom! Graceful Peacock didn't say a word. He used his actions to express the resolution in his heart. Thunder rumbled all over his body, and his might became even more terrifying. All these changes surprised Lin Sun a little. He realized that it was precisely because of his monstrous fighting spirit that his opponent also had some kind of change. Perhaps, for them, this was also a kind of tempering and transformation. Lin Sun had to admit that Niu Tunshan and the others were really strong. They were the real heavens chosen among their peers, each with their own style, and were extraordinary. However, the more it was like this, the more Lin Sun looked forward to it. What he longed for was a battle between the strong, a battle where he was evenly matched. Boom! The battle continued, and Lin Sun was still barehanded. The only difference was that the situation had changed. Even if Niu Tunshan and the others realized the seriousness of the problem and became determined to fight, Lin Sun was now very difficult to be shaken. Fighting Saint Method. The ancient and pure fighting spirit allowed Lin Sun to understand the essence and mystery of fighting in the battle. It made every move of his seem to be transformed and different from before. It was a completely different style of battle. He'd completely fused his own path towards the Tao, energy, essence, spirit, and the combat techniques and experience he'd grasped into his battle intent. In the end, it was released in the purest form of battle. It was like the mountain breaker. In the past, Lin Sun had mastered its essence and could fully exert its power. The destructive power it produced was already terrifying. But now, after integrating the mystery of fighting Saint Method, the power of this move was more than twice as strong. Moreover, during the battle, he did not stick to the move. He could do whatever he wanted, and his every move could split mountains and seas. This kind of inheritance was not a cultivation method, but a kind of description of the essence and mystery of fighting. It was so wonderful that it could be called peerless. Dong! With an ear-piercing collision, Meng Lianqing was shaken back. She gasped for breath, and her pretty face was pale. She had a bad feeling that she had been seriously injured. At this point in the battle, no matter how strong her fighting spirit was, she could not help but feel a little depressed when facing Lin Sun, who was almost unshakable. Was she really unbeatable? At this moment, Lin Sun became calmer. He was completely immersed in the comprehension of fighting Saint Method and grasped all kinds of mysteries of martial arts. Gradually, when Lin Sun waved his fists, he drove the power of heaven and earth. The blazing Tao almost formed a vast ocean, covering the whole Taoist field. Puff! Not long after, graceful Kung also suffered a heavy blow and coughed up blood. But he gritted his teeth and still fought fiercely. He was like a madman, not afraid of death. However, at this moment, Lin Sun's fighting spirit was soaring, and his mind was extremely empty. He used the mystery of fighting, deduced martial arts, and kept pressing forward. Finally, graceful Kung's face changed. He felt frightened. He had used more power than his limit, but at this moment, he could not bear it. Boom! Lin Sun's punch carried the power of heaven and earth, blowing graceful Kung away. His face turned ashen, and he was completely injured. Oh no! On the other side, Niu Tunshan, Meng Lianqing, and Xian Luozi were all shocked, but it was too late to save him. Lin Sun's fist power was unparalleled, and he hit the sky with one blow. Bang! Graceful Kung was punched in the chest, and a string of bright red blood sprayed from his mouth. Then, his chest collapsed. Lin Sun kicked him up, and then punched him again, smashing his head. This series of attacks was too overbearing and powerful. With one punch, Graceful Kung's head exploded, and blood flowed like a waterfall, dyeing the void red. No one had expected Lin Sun to be so fast and domineering. Under the heavy siege, he still defeated his opponent and killed him. It could be said that his courage was unparalleled. A wisp of his soul emerged and was wrapped up by the power of the bone talisman of Life's soul. Graceful Kung's scream came from it, and he seemed extremely unwilling. Lin Sun was quick to react. Just as he was about to give another blow to completely end Graceful Kung's life, he heard a clang. A dark blue spear swept up and launched a shocking blow, slashing down from the sky. This was the ancestral weapon used by Graceful Kung. At the moment of life and death, it changed. The treasure seemed to have awakened a trace of the consciousness of a saint, and it released a terrifying power. Lin Sun sensed the danger, but he still did not retreat. He waved his fist to meet it head-on, appearing incomparably powerful. Boom! A terrifying rumble resounded, and Lin Sun staggered back a few steps. Looking at the blue spear, it had long since teleported away with the power of the Bone Soul Talisman. This made Lin Sun frown. He realized that as a top saint, the core disciple of a clan, he must have many life-saving means. It was impossible for him to be killed so easily. Otherwise, Graceful Kung's death would be a devastating blow to the Cloud Monkey clan. Even so, when they saw this scene, it still shocked all the powerhouses to the point that chills ran down their backs, and they had goosebumps all over their bodies. What a domineering scene this was! A young man had not only killed a top saint in a heavy siege, but had also fought head-on with the ancestral weapon of the Cloud Monkey clan with unparalleled bravery. He was simply tyrannical to a shocking extent. Everyone was stunned and incomparably shocked. Although Graceful Kung's soul had escaped, his body was still there. Even if he could recover in the future, he would have to pay a great price. This was bound to cause a storm that would spread to the outside world, shocking all the clans of the Soul Oblivion Sea. It's a pity that the Spirit-Eater bugs can't be controlled. Sneak attacks are fine, but head-on battles are difficult to use. Otherwise, Graceful Kung is doomed to die, Lin Sun sighed inwardly. But in just an instant, he abandoned all distracting thoughts and fixed his gaze on Niu Tunshan, Meng Lianqing, and Xian Luozi. His fighting spirit was burning. Boom! The battle continued. However, after witnessing Graceful Kung's death, Niu Tunshan and the others felt a chill in their hearts. No matter how resolute their fighting spirit was, a crack appeared in their hearts at this moment, and a trace of fear and horror that could not be erased surged in their hearts. As for Lin Sun, it was as if he had entered an uninhabited realm. His figure moved, and his aura devoured the mountains and rivers as he launched a true battle of suppression. Outside the ultimate, the bigwigs of all clans were waiting patiently. There was a sudden fluctuation on the soul altar in front of the Cloud Monkey clan, and then Graceful Kung's soul emerged. He stood there motionlessly, wrapped in an obscure power, and his face was filled with fury and unwillingness. He had actually been killed and returned to the outside world. Although he was alive, it was a great humiliation for Graceful Kung. Ever since he started cultivating, he was known to be invincible in his clan. When had he ever been directly killed by someone? The most humiliating thing was that his opponent had done it while he was besieged. In the outside world, the bigwigs of all clans were stunned. They recognized Graceful Kung's identity and could not react for a moment. The holy son of the Cloud Monkey clan had been killed? Who had done this? It was simply unbelievable. Some of the old monsters were even more shocked. No matter what, they had never expected that a top holy son like Graceful Kung would be eliminated in advance and killed. Could it be that some kind of accident happened during the fight for the opportunity? Many powerhouses voiced their opinions, causing an uproar. On the soul altar, graceful Kung's face was ashen. He did not say a word. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, this was the first time he had felt such humiliation. He wished he could find a hole to hide in. Chapter 6:24. Who did it? A major figure asked, but graceful Kong did not say a word. He did not respond, but his face became even more ashen. Later on, an ancestor of the Cloud Abyssal clan personally asked. Graceful Kong's expression changed, but he did not say anything in the end. What should he say? Was he supposed to admit that he had been killed by his opponent while he was besieging his opponent? It was too embarrassing. Graceful Kong could not tolerate this kind of humiliation. The atmosphere was somewhat stiff. The expressions of the major figures of the various clans flickered. They were all shocked. Graceful Peacock's defeat was too unexpected, and it was obvious how horrifying the intense battle within the Demon Saint's secret realm was. Who would be the final victor in this unparalleled fortuitous encounter? Just as everyone was in shock, the life-soul altar in front of the Xian Ao clan suddenly rumbled. A soul figure staggered out and let out a beast-like roar. Xian Luozi! Everyone gasped when they recognized that figure. Another peerless chosen had been killed and eliminated. Isn't this too inconceivable? Who exactly did it? Could something shocking have happened in the Beast Saint's secret realm? Even people like Graceful Kong and Xian Luozi had been killed? Could it be the doing of the golden-winged Great Pring and the other terrifying beings? Some major figures speculated. After all, among all the experts who had entered the Beast Saint's secret realm, Graceful Kong and Xian Luozi were among the strongest. Even they had suffered a calamity, and this in itself was inconceivable. After all, even Niu Tunshan and Meng Lianqing, who were also peerless chosen, would find it difficult to kill Graceful Kong and Xian Luozi. To everyone's disappointment, Xian Luozi did not say a word after he appeared, just like Graceful Kong. His expression was extremely ugly, like a frightened beast, anxious and resentful. What was going on? The major figures of the various clans were shocked. At this moment, a figure appeared on the life-soul altar of the Herculean Bull Devil clan. As soon as he appeared, he roared at the sky. Impossible! How can there be such a person in this world? Damn it! How is that person human? He's clearly a monster. His voice shocked everyone present, shocking every race. The human race? All of this was done by the humans? Even Niu Tunshan, the little bull demon king, had been killed. Teleporting out was just too crazy. The Herculean demonic bull clan was the most overbearing clan among the natives of the Soul Oblivion Sea. As the saint of the clan, Niu Tunshan was the strongest among the younger generation. Ever since his debut, he had shone brightly and was extremely domineering. Who could have imagined that such an expert would be swept out of the competition? The great figures were all stunned. This was too unbelievable. What kind of person could defeat Niu Tunshan? The human race. In an instant, numerous gazes converged on Elder Gao Yang of the numinous treasure Holy Land. Their expressions were all different, causing Elder Gao Yang's entire body to stiffen as a chill ran down his spine. He sensed a lot of anger and killing intent. Devouring heaven, who did it? At this moment, the ancestor of the Herculean demonic bull clan, the real bull demon king, Niu Xiaori, spoke. His voice was like thunder from the 9 heavens that shook the entire place. All the powerhouses felt a chill in their hearts and a heavy pressure. Niu Tunshan's expression was uncertain. After a long while, he said, Tunshan is ashamed to have lost to the young demon god of the human race. His voice was bitter and heavy. When these words were spoken, it was no less than a sudden clap of thunder that shook the entire place. The young demon god. It was this guy. In an instant, the powerhouses from the various clans recalled too many things. They remembered how the young demon god killed the Blood Lion clan's saint, Lin Lang, and the Dragon Whale clan's saint, Yu Shaosheng. They also remembered how he alone defeated the various clans and slaughtered his way through a terrifying and bloody battle record. However, no one expected the young demon god to have reached such a level of ferocity that even Nyo Tunshin lost to him. Too cruel. How dare he do this? Is it because he is skilled that he is bold, or is he not afraid of retaliation? The crowd was in an uproar. All the clans trembled as they realized that the young demon god's name was destined to shake all the clans of the Soul Oblivion Sea with today's battle. However, what on earth was he thinking? How could he be so crazy? Could it be that the young demon god, an important figure, asked Graceful Peacock and Xianluozi, who had come out earlier? Although the two remained silent, they finally nodded with difficulty. Wow! Everyone was dumbfounded. It turned out that not only Nyo Tunshin, but also Graceful Peacock and Xianluozi were killed by the young demon god? Even the important figures could not remain calm at this moment. Their expressions were uncertain. The young demon god. Who was he? All of a sudden, everyone looked at Elder Gao Yang again. Most of them had hostile expressions and were filled with murderous intent. His name is Lin Xian. He is not a descendant of the Holy Land of Spirit Treasure. He is just a servant. I don't know anything else. Elder Gao Yang finally took a deep breath and revealed Lin Sun's identity. Servant? The faces of the important figures twitched imperceptibly. Their expressions became more and more gloomy. What did this mean? Did he mean that their holy son was not as good as a servant of the successor of the Holy Land of Spirit Treasure? If you don't believe me, you can capture him and interrogate him when he comes out. To tell you the truth, at this moment I also want to kill him with my own hand. Elder Gao Yang threw caution to the wind. His expression was cold and indifferent. Don't forget that one of the successors of the Holy Land of Spirit Treasure was also killed by this guy. At this moment, how can we protect him? Hearing this, everyone remembered that such a thing had indeed happened when they were fighting for the opportunity in the Nine Mountains. The young demon god and the successors of the Holy Land of Spirit Treasure had killed each other, and one of them, Gong Yangyu, had been killed. It seemed that what Gao Yang had said was true. Most importantly, Gao Yang had now made it clear that he would no longer protect the young demon god. This finally convinced the important figures of the various clans. However, what made them depressed and aggrieved was that a servant had made such a big noise in the secret land of demon saints and killed so many powerhouses of the various clans. In the end, even Nyo Tunshin, Kong Xiu, and Xianluozi were swept out. All of this seemed so crazy and unbelievable that the powerhouses of the various clans had the urge to vomit blood at the thought of it. No, Nyo Tunshin and the others were all defeated. What about Meng Lianqing of the Golden Phoenix clan? This little girl is also a peerless Holy Sun level figure. Suddenly, an important figure spoke, which attracted attention. Damn it, how can you talk like that? The ancestor of the Golden Phoenix clan roared in anger. He looked angry, but in fact, he still had a glimmer of hope in his heart. He thought that perhaps Meng Lianqing could turn the tide and create a miracle to seize a great opportunity. At this time, Nyo Tunshin suddenly became angry. He gritted his teeth and roared, "If she hadn't run away, how could I have been defeated so quickly?" Ran away? All the important figures were stunned. The sliver of hope in the ancestor of the Golden Phoenix clan completely collapsed. His face was as dark as the bottom of a pot, and he was about to go crazy. So you're saying that you were defeated by the young demon god even though you and Meng Lianqing worked together? An important figure exclaimed, having acutely grasped the key point. Humph! Nyo Tunshin seemed to have thrown caution to the wind. He said coldly, "Not only the two of us, Kong Xiu and Xianluozi, also worked together, but we couldn't suppress the young demon god. How about it? Are you shocked? Unbelievable? Isn't this what you want?" He seemed to be venting his emotions. His voice was filled with endless anger. At this moment all the clans were truly shocked. They truly found it unbelievable and could not control their emotions at all. 4 peerless holy sons worked together, but they were completely defeated by the young demon god. 3 of them were killed and eliminated, and the last one escaped. Who could remain calm in the face of such news? There was no more noise. The atmosphere was dead silent. It was so oppressive that everyone found it hard to breathe. That young demon god, how could he be so powerful? Who was he? This doubt had been in everyone's mind since they first heard about the young demon god. But now it had become more and more intense. After a long time, under the questioning of many important figures, they finally learned about the battle that took place in the ancient dojo. They learned about the peerless opportunity and how terrifying the young demon god was. This opportunity is coming to an end. Everyone, get ready. Once he shows up, we will immediately capture him. No matter who it is, whoever dares to stop us will be killed without mercy. Bull Demon King Nyo Shiari's cold voice reverberated through the entire place. The terrifying killing intent swept through everyone's heart like a storm. Hearing this, the important figures of the clans nodded. Their attitudes were surprisingly unanimous. Everyone realized that the young demon god was finished. No matter how many opportunities he had obtained in the demonic saint's secret realm, no matter how unparalleled his battle strength in the heavenly insight realm, but once he came out of the demonic saint's secret realm, what awaited him would be the wrath of a group of life and death kings. No matter who it was, no one would be able to save his life. In the ancient dojo, Lin Sun stood alone, his black hair fluttering in the wind. His whole body was surging with light cyan Tao aura. At his feet lay 3 broken corpses, which belonged to Nyo Tunshin, Kongxiu, and Xianluozi. The smell of blood was shocking. At the foot of the mountain, the experts of all clans were in a trance. They were all shocked and couldn't come to their senses. Until now, it seemed that they couldn't believe that the 4 great saints had been defeated by the young demon god. This seemed to be too inconceivable, and that was why it was so shocking. Even Zhao Jingxian and Old Toad opened their eyes wide at this moment. This result was also beyond their imagination. It wasn't that it was too bad, but it was too good. It was like a dream, and it felt a little unreal. The scene was silent, and there was a kind of silent shock in the air. As for Lin Sun, he seemed to have done something very ordinary. He didn't sigh, think, or even show any joy or happiness. He looked at the center of the dojo, where there was a futon. Chapter 6:25. Lin Sun walked over and sat cross-legged in front of the futon. The jade archive and golden book glowed with golden light, sacred and vast, and full of Taoism. However, after obtaining the secret of the Saint method, the jade archive and golden book had become different from before in Lin Sun's eyes. The flowing golden light was crystal clear, reflecting a blurry small world. Lin Sun was amazed. He didn't see it wrong. In the golden light, a shadow of a world emerged, like a dilapidated relic. There, the sacred mountain had collapsed, the palaces had collapsed, and all the ancient buildings had been turned into ruins. Some ancient trees and auspicious grasses had long been scorched into ashes. It should have been a blessed place, but after some kind of disaster, it became a dilapidated relic, covered with rubble and dust. Mind! Lin Sun's heart throbbed. He saw 2 vague mottled ancient Taoist characters on the broken and collapsed mountain. Slanting moon. 3 stars. Before long, he saw an ancient tablet inserted into the ruins in front of the collapsed ancient mountain gate. Looking carefully, he could vaguely see these 4 characters. Could this be the place that the Buddhist sages were searching for? Lin Sun thought of the Mahayana script left on the 49 ancient altars, and an indescribable emotion welled up in his heart. At that time, he and Old Toad had speculated that the reason why the Buddhist sages were so persistent in searching for Fangtsuan Mountain and Slanting Moon and 3 stars was to get the so-called secret of Bodhi. What was certain was that those Buddhist sages failed in the end, so they thought it was a hoax and didn't exist at all. But now, Lin Sun was a little absent-minded. The so-called Fangtsuan Mountain and Slanting Moon and 3 stars seemed to really exist. It wasn't a hoax, Lin Sun was surprised. The blurry scene he saw changed, and a figure emerged. The figure stood in front of the collapsed ancient mountain gate, leaving only a back view. He seemed to be silent and recalling the past, motionless like a statue. A figure stood silently within the broken divine mountain, the collapsed ancient mountain gate, and the palace that had been transformed into ruins. He actually gave off an indescribable aura of sorrow. But for Lin Sun, the moment he saw that figure, he felt a completely opposite aura. It was as vast as the sky, unyielding and boundlessly terrifying. It was as if they were facing a terrifying war god that they were powerless to resist, and the pressure they felt was suffocating. It was just a human figure, standing in front of the ruined mountain gate, yet it was like an ancient era's overlord, able to intimidate the 9 heavens 10 earths. That type of wild and arrogant aura was too intimidating. Even though they were separated by thousands of years and weren't in the same time and space, and even though he knew that what he saw was just an afterimage, Lin Sun's heart still palpitated and trembled, making him feel like an ant in front of a god. This figure was too powerful. Is it him? Lin Sun was so shocked that he couldn't calm down. Because he'd faintly discerned that the aura of that figure seemed to be extremely similar to the arrogant figure within the battle diagram he'd seen, and it was like they were the same person. It was the same aura that covered the heavens and earth, unyielding and unyielding. It seemed to be able to sweep through the 9 heavens and 10 earths, slaughter the heavens and earth, and fight unparalleled. Not long after, the figure suddenly moved. He knelt in front of the mountain gate and kowtowed 3 times without saying a word. Then, he took out a jade archive with both hands and sealed it within the mountain gate. Lin Sun was shocked. Wasn't that the jade archive and golden letter? Before he could figure it out, tens of thousands of lightning tribulations suddenly descended in front of the damaged mountain gate. At the same time, it was as if gods and devils had appeared, covering the sky and earth. A terrifying aura spread out. That arrogant figure suddenly stood up and raised his head to look at the sky. A formless and terrifying battle energy erupted from his body. He didn't retreat but advanced instead. He charged through over 10,000 levels of tribulation lightning and fought the gods and devils of the world. His unyielding and arrogant bearing caused his figure to be like a wisp of light that illuminated the ages. A battle broke out. It was also at this moment that the scene became blurry. However, just the aura of battle alone was enough to make deities tremble. It was too terrifying, as if the world was going to be destroyed. Lin Sun's face suddenly changed. He almost suffered a backlash in his heart. He quickly moved his eyes away. At the same time, the jade archive and golden letter in front of him calmed down. All the scenes disappeared and turned into golden flowing light. It turns out that this Taoist book was left by him, Lin Sun muttered to himself. No matter what, he now knew the origin of the jade archive and golden book, as well as its supreme value. Even if it had nothing to do with the secret of Bodhi, it must have something to do with Mount Fangsuan, the crescent and the 3 stars. Lin Sun stood up and faced the jade archive and golden letter on the futon. Finally, he made a solemn salute and said, "Thank you for teaching me." In the battle just now, he had completely comprehended the essence of the Saint method and obtained the inheritance of the essence of the Saint method. As for the jade archive and golden letter, even if he obtained it, it was meaningless to him. This was called getting carried away. Getting the original meaning and forgetting the form. For Lin Sun, the jade archive and golden letter were more of a carrier and situation. The mystery of it had long been imprinted in his heart. This was a kind of fighting inheritance. One could only comprehend its true meaning in the battle. If he blindly seized the jade archive and golden letter, he wouldn't be able to comprehend it. At this time, there was a mysterious roar in the ancient Taoist field, spreading like the sound of the Great Way. The futon disappeared and turned into a light rain. The jade archive and golden letter had also disappeared without a trace. It was as if they had never appeared in the first place, and not a single trace of their existence could be found. The ancient Taoist field also collapsed in the void and turned into 9 ancient stone tripods. Then, it returned to the ancient temple on the top of the 9 mountains. Long before all these changes happened, Lin Sun's figure was shrouded by a light rain of the Great Way and disappeared. At the foot of the mountain, the overmatches of all races were in an uproar. They disappeared. Not only the Taoist field in the void, but also the 9 mountains in front of them were collapsing to the ground, making a rolling roar. At this moment, the world seemed to be about to collapse. It became unstable, and there were signs of imminent destruction everywhere. Run! Without any hesitation, the experts of the various races subconsciously turned around and fled. They followed the 54 ancient altars and disappeared from this area. Let's go! Xiao Ran took a deep breath and took back his eyes. He chose to leave with Su Xingfeng and others. Are we going to leave like this? Su Xingfeng and others were unwilling to give up. This opportunity is coming to an end. If I'm right, it's time to leave. We just need to wait outside the secret realm of demons. Xiao Ran transmitted his voice as he flew. Wait for what? Of course, wait for Lin Sun to come out. Su Xingfeng's eyes lit up. Without hesitation, he even began to think excitedly. This time, Lin Xian had seized the biggest opportunity, but would he be the final winner? No. At least when he left the secret realm of demons, the holy land of spirit treasure would be the first to hunt him down. Young devil god, when you go out, it will be your death. Meng Lianqing's cold and resentful voice rang out in the chaotic scene of escape. It was a threat with resolute killing intent. Even as they fled, the overmatches of all races realized that Lin Sun's combat strength might be extraordinary and that he had seized the biggest opportunity. But he had killed too many overmatches and offended too many races. When he left the secret realm of demons, it was destined that he wouldn't have a chance to survive. This made many overmatches excited, but there were also many overmatches who sighed and felt sorry for Lin Sun. So what if he was extraordinary? In front of the powerful forces of all races, he was destined to be unable to escape. At this moment, Lin Sun had already arrived at the foot of the mountain and met up with Zhao Jingxian and Old Toad. Naturally, he had also heard these words. His black eyes were cold and calm. He had already expected this situation, so he didn't feel any panic. Where there is gain, there is loss. This time, he had defeated all the peerless chosen and obtained the battle saint technique inheritance. It was gain, but the price he had to pay was that he would face an unpredictable disaster when he left the demonic saint mystic realm. It was loss. There was gain and there was loss. This was what one had to face in order to compete for opportunities. Boy, the situation is not good. What are you going to do? Old Toad was worried. They were also fleeing. They entered an ancient altar and returned to the top of Zixia Holy Mountain. Not long after they left, the 9 mountains, together with the world where they were, completely collapsed and disappeared. We'll cross the bridge when we come to it. At worst, we won't leave this time. Don't you think the secret realm of demons is very suitable for cultivation? It's better to stay and cultivate than to be surrounded and killed. Lin Sun said casually. Bullshit. If you miss this opportunity, the secret realm of demons will be closed again, and you don't know when it will open again. Maybe it will never open again. Are you willing to give up? Old Toad cursed, exasperated. Then what do you think we should do? Lin Sun asked. Old Toad was stunned. He didn't know what to do. He frowned and was a little mad. Yes, what should we do? There's always a way out. There's always a way. Zhao Jingxian spoke, her clear and beautiful face was calm and composed. Boom. Suddenly, the whole Zixia Holy Mountain began to shake and shake. The rocks cracked, and the 54 altars distributed in various areas of the mountain showed signs of collapse. Oh no, get out of here! The old toad's entire body quivered as it cried out. They didn't dare to hesitate and rushed down the mountain at once. At this time, the experts of other races also realized that something was wrong. Like a tide, they rushed down Xixia Holy Mountain frantically. This place was about to collapse and disappear. It was too dangerous. At the moment when Xixia Holy Mountain shook, the golden-winged roc, the unparalleled snake, the cyan fox, the multicolored butterfly, the jasper centipede, and other terrifying creatures who had been waiting quietly all raised their eyes from their hiding places. Chapter 6:26. Purple Cloud Divine Mountain was collapsing, creating terrifying fluctuations. The powerhouses of the various clans fled, not daring to stay. However, when the first batch of powerhouses arrived at the foot of the mountain and were about to rush forward, an accident occurred. A bright golden light shot up. It was a pair of golden wings that covered the sky, flowing with terrifying Taoist rhymes as it enveloped those powerhouses. Obviously, it was the golden roc that made its move. Damn it! The powerhouses' expressions changed as they cried out in alarm and hurriedly dodged. Rumble! The golden wings fell down. They were too big, covering the sky and earth, shattering the rocks. A terrifying power swept out, wanting to drown the area. However, just as it was about to cover those powerhouses, a restriction fluctuation emerged from the collapsed Purple Cloud Divine Mountain and dissolved all of this. The golden-winged roc let out a cry of shock and anger, and its entire figure was actually suppressed to the ground. Even so, there were still several powerhouses who couldn't escape in time and were swallowed by the golden roc. Run! Motherf *Cur, the surrounding area has been sealed by those terrifying creatures. Panicked voices rose everywhere as the powerhouses of the various clans' expressions changed. They discovered that there were many terrifying creatures occupying the area near Purple Cloud Divine Mountain. There was the golden roc, the peerless serpent, the mysterious green fox, the five-colored butterfly, and a jade centipede that was several meters long. All of their auras were terrifying, not weaker than life and death kings. They occupied all directions, and their eyes were filled with cruelty. Obviously, they had been waiting here for a long time to hunt down the powerhouses of the various clans and seize their fortunes. This made the powerhouses of the various clans' expressions change. Their hearts were filled with fear and uneasiness. But soon, they noticed that although Purple Cloud Divine Mountain was collapsing, there was a restriction fluctuation, suppressing those terrifying creatures to the point that they couldn't even lift their heads. Charge! Get far away from them! Many powerhouses noticed this and couldn't care about anything else. They gritted their teeth and avoided the area occupied by those terrifying creatures, rushing into the distance. Boom! The area was in chaos. Those terrifying creatures were not willing to be suppressed, and they fought back madly, releasing monstrous ferocious might. Some powerhouses who couldn't dodge in time were instantly captured on the spot. As for some of the experts who were slightly further away, they took this opportunity to escape from this area by a hair's breadth. They frantically flew into the distance, not daring to look back. Roars sounded continuously here. The golden-winged ping flapped its wings, its cries shaking the 9 heavens. The peerless serpent coiled in the air, spitting out terrifying energy that swept out in all directions. As for the mysterious green fox, its figure flickered as it continuously teleported to hunt down experts. The most terrifying was the 5-colored butterfly. It was the size of a cattail leaf fan, and with a light flap of its wings, it gave rise to a 5-colored storm that shot into the sky and crushed the world. All the experts that were swept into it were unable to survive. Similarly, the jasper centipede wasn't inferior. Its densely packed legs danced about like thousands of sharp blades reaping lives. And this was under the suppression of the restriction power. If it weren't for that, just their aura that wasn't inferior to life and death kings would be sufficient to cause a terrifying calamity, and not a single expert would be able to escape. After all, the disparity in strength was too great. Let's leave quickly as well. The energy of the restriction is still there, and it's able to suppress those terrifying living beings. Once the violet cloud divine mountain completely collapses, it won't be able to suppress them anymore. Old Toad yelled. Let's go. Lin Sun led the way. At this moment, he took out his broken blade and looked cautious. This killing tribulation was even more terrifying than fighting against Nyo Tunshin and the others, so he had to be extremely careful. Whoosh! As soon as they moved, they encountered a blow. A green fox flickered, and its sharp claws soared into the sky, releasing a terrifying green waterfall that swept over like a waterfall. Boom! Zhao Jingxian let out a clear rebuke, raised his hand, and shot out a black jade talisman. With a snap, it exploded, and a black thunderbolt shot out. Suddenly, there was a terrible collision here, and divine light burst out, shaking Lin Sun and the others so much that they almost coughed up blood. The power was so terrifying that it made them shudder. Fortunately, the black jade talisman that Zhao Jingxian shot out was extremely extraordinary, allowing them to take the blow head-on, and take advantage of this opportunity to escape. However, the next moment there was a scream. It turned out that some of the experts following Lin Sun and the others couldn't escape in time, and were captured alive by the green fox. What treasure did you take out just now? How could it be so powerful? When they were far away from this area, Old Toad breathed a sigh of relief and couldn't help looking at Zhao Jingxian strangely. It's a life-saving means that my father gave me, the Een God Mysterious Thunder Talisman. It can resolve a sudden killing tribulation, but it can only be used once. Zhao Jingxian explained casually. It turned out to be a treasure given by the current emperor of Xiao Empire. Lin Sun couldn't help but sigh inwardly. As the daughter of the current emperor, Zhao Jingxian must have a lot of life-saving means. Without delay, they fled with all their strength. Behind them, Xixia Holy Mountain continued to collapse, and before long, it was destined to disappear from the world. Screams continued, and the divine light roared. The experts of all races were still fleeing. However, only about half of them were able to escape from the hands of those terrifying creatures. The rest were captured. There was no doubt that not only would the opportunities they had obtained be taken away, but their lives would also be left here. It's too terrifying. Those horrible creatures are extremely intelligent, and their strength is no weaker than Life-Death Realm Kings. If it weren't for the suppression of that Xixia Holy Mountain, I'm afraid none of us would have been able to escape today. Old Toad still had a lingering fear. Even though he had escaped safely, he still felt a chill when he thought of those ferocious creatures. My little friend, don't be in a hurry to leave. We can take this opportunity to have a good talk. At this time, an old voice suddenly rang in their ears, startling Old Toad so much that he almost jumped up. Lin Sun and Zhao Jingxian also stiffened and felt a chill in their hearts. Immediately, they saw the figure of an old ape appear in front of them, blocking their way. His hair was gray and his eyes were full of vicissitudes. Leaning on a green wooden staff, he looked senile. The old ape who guarded the herb garden on the sacred island of 5 elements. Lin Sun recognized him at a glance. He couldn't help narrowing his eyes and becoming extremely vigilant. As early as in the sacred island of 5 elements, he knew that this old ape was very terrible and unfathomable. Such an old monster suddenly appeared here and blocked their way, which made Lin Sun feel a little heavy in his heart. "Senior, what do you want to talk about?" Lin Sun calmed his mind and asked. "Don't worry, I have no intention of harming you." A trace of kindness appeared on the old ape's face. Lin Sun didn't believe that he had not only plundered peerless treasures like the Lantern King ginseng and Qilin grass on the sacred island of 5 elements, he had also seized a part of the saint's Tao scripture from that little lord. As the old ape who guarded the sacred island of 5 elements, how could he not care about such things? "I won't do anything to you just because of that pagoda in your hand. Not to mention that you've entered the core ruins and obtained a great fortune. This means that you and my clan are fated to meet. We are not enemies. The old ape's voice became even more gentle and calm. The core ruins. Lin Sun's heart shook. He knew that the old ape was undoubtedly talking about the Violet Cloud Divine Mountain. It was obvious that the old ape knew a lot of things. This could be seen from the fact that it could call out the core ruins and know that Lin Sun had obtained a great fortune from it. However, Lin Sun was still very vigilant. He didn't dare to let his guard down. This old ape had lived for who knows how long. Its aura was vicissitudes and its strength was unfathomable. Not good, the giant snake is coming. The old toad's expression changed abruptly as it shouted. As expected, the peerless giant snake, for some unknown reason, had broken free from the Violet Cloud Divine Mountain's suppression and was rushing towards Lin Sun. Human, are you the one who obtained the greatest fortune from the core ruins? Hand it over now and I will spare your life. The peerless giant snake coiled in the void. Its body was so huge that it blocked out the sun. Its head was like a mountain, and its scarlet eyes were the size of lakes as it stared down at Lin Sun. These words made Lin Sun realize that someone had leaked information about him, which made the peerless serpent give up on other strong cultivators and find him first to take away his good fortune. Little worm, this is no place for you to speak. Disappear now. At this moment, the old ape cast a sidelong glance at the giant snake and casually asked it to leave. Are you talking to me? The peerless giant snake's green scales shone with a metallic coldness. Its scarlet eyes were filled with killing intent. It had the right to be arrogant. Its strength was far above the average life and death realm, and it was one of the strongest beings in the Arcana realm. After so many years, even a little worm dares to challenge me. Interesting. The old ape laughed. It wasn't a benevolent creature in the past. It was unknown in the Arcana realm because it had always been in seclusion, guarding the sacred island of 5 elements left behind by its master. Boom! With a flick of his sleeve, an expanse of light shot out, accompanied by terrifying golden lightning that was deafening to the ears. The peerless giant snake's expression changed as it sensed danger. Roar! It roared and attacked with all its might. Its body that was as thick as a mountain exploded with divine light, and its tail swept through the void. However, with a loud crash, the snake's tail that was like the whip of a heavenly deity was broken into a bloody mess. The old ape had broken the peerless giant snake's tail with a casual wave of its hand. This made the peerless giant snake realize that its opponent's strength was beyond the limits of the Arcana realm. It could even be a living saint. Screech! A cry came from afar. It turned out that the golden-winged roc was also rushing over, but it was also shocked and frightened by this scene. It knew the peerless giant snake's strength very well, but it was heavily injured by a single strike. Just how terrifying was the old ape? Without any hesitation, the peerless giant snake and the roc chose to retreat, not daring to come closer. Lin Sun and the others sucked in a breath of cold air, feeling goosebumps all over their bodies. This old ape was too powerful, many times more terrifying than a life-and-death king. Chapter 6:27. Don't be nervous. I mean no harm. The old ape's voice was warm. How could Lin Sun not be nervous? Even the golden-winged roc and the unparalleled snake were scared away, which showed how terrifying the old ape was. But the old ape was always disturbed when it wanted to talk. Not far away, a green centipede swept over, seemingly unwilling to give up. In other words, it was determined to get Lin Sun's great fortune. After a roar, it swept over. Boom! Its green body was full of horrible light, and its fierce power was shocking. The old ape frowned. It seemed that it was finally irritated and no longer held back. Pooh! He stretched out his hand and grabbed, and he actually forcefully tore the jasper centipede that was several tens of meters long into 2. Blood splashed like a waterfall, and the mournful cry resounded through the world. Then, it stopped abruptly. The 2 halves of the jasper centipede's body were tossed to the ground by the old ape like they were trash. It seemed like the old ape had done something very normal. A horrible creature that was not weaker than a life-death realm king died like this? All the people present were shocked and silent. Some practitioners who were watching from afar were all sweating and retreating. Even the butterfly as big as a cattail leaf fan and the extraordinary green fox showed deep fear and retreated far away. It has been silent for too long. I haven't killed for many years, so I can't control my power well. In fact, I didn't intend to kill it. After all, it's not easy to cultivate. It's not merciful to kill for no reason. The old ape explained patiently. Everyone was instantly speechless. This old ape seemed to be a decisive and ferocious person, so how could he possibly show mercy? Lin Sun didn't expose it, nor did he dare to do so. The old ape was too unfathomable. Lin Sun dared not to provoke it even if he had 100 guts. Where were we? The old ape ignored the others and looked at Lin Sun with gentle eyes. Speaking of fate, senior, you want to make a deal with me? Lin Sun reminded in a low voice. Oh yes, I'm getting old, so my memory is getting worse. The old ape sighed with emotion, which made Lin Sun speechless again. With such a terrifying cultivation, the old ape had long lived as an old antique who had insight into the affairs of the world. How could its memory become bad? Even though there's fate between you and my clan, I can't allow you to take away the supreme secret Tao scripture that belongs to my clan. Lin Sun's heart skipped a beat after hearing the old ape's words, and his hair stood on end. As expected, the old ape was here for the Tao scripture. However, you don't have to be nervous. Since you were able to obtain a portion of that Tao scripture, it can be considered as your fortune. I won't forcefully take it from you. On the contrary, I can give you some compensation. The old ape looked at Lin Sun calmly with its weathered eyes. This old monster is so easy to talk to? Old Toad and Zhao Jingxian were deeply astonished. What kind of compensation? Lin couldn't help asking. This Tao scripture records the secrets of the cultivation of the divine Tao. Even if you obtain it, you won't be able to use it right now. The old ape spoke calmly, however. I'm sure you won't be willing to hand it over on your own. So, I've decided to let you see all the profundities of this Tao scripture. How much you can remember will depend on your comprehension ability. Lin Sun was shocked and extremely surprised. He really didn't expect that the old ape's compensation would be to let him see the complete Tao scripture of the saint. In other words, this was simply a rare opportunity that came to him on its own initiative. The complete Tao scripture of the saint. It recorded the secrets of the cultivation of the divine Tao. Even a real saint would go crazy and be tempted by it. However, the old ape casually wanted to compensate him, which made Lin Sun feel like he had been hit by a pie from the sky. Humph, don't be too happy. The complete Tao scripture of the saint is imprinted with the power of the divine Tao. So what if I let you see it once? Your realm is too low and you're completely unable to comprehend the profundity within. Old Toad snorted next to him. It seemed to be sarcastic, but in fact, it was to remind Lin Sun not to be carried away by this kind of thing. You deserve to be the descendant of the three-legged golden toad. The old ape glanced at Old Toad with a hint of surprise in its eyes. You're right. The secret method of the divine Tao is obscure and profound, containing the supreme essence of the divine Tao. Unless you have the cultivation of the saint realm, it's really difficult to get any benefits from it. Suddenly, Lin Sun understood. The reason why the old ape was so generous was that it had already expected that even if he could get a glimpse of the complete Tao scripture, he wouldn't get any benefits from it. What do you think? Asked the old ape. Lin Sun hesitated for a moment, then braced himself and said, Senior, the compensation seems a little unkind. The old ape smiled faintly, then nodded and said, Well, how do you think it should be compensated? Lin Sun took a deep breath and cupped his hands, saying, I've gotten into big trouble. If you can send us safely out of the ultimate, I promise to hand over the Tao scripture I've obtained. Old Toad and Zhao Jingxian both narrowed their eyes. They were a little nervous, but also a little expectant. If the old ape could agree, it would undoubtedly solve their most difficult problem. Ah! The old ape looked up to the sky and laughed loudly. His eyes were like torches, as if he could see through everything. "Why are you laughing, Senior?" asked Lin Sun. "I just didn't expect someone like you to ask me for help." An unfathomable look appeared in the old ape's eyes. "Senior, I'm not asking for help. It's a fair deal," corrected Lin Sun. The old ape was stunned. He stared at Lin Sun for a long time, seeming a little surprised, and a dazed look appeared on his face. He seemed to be recalling the past as he murmured, "As expected, perhaps only someone like you is most qualified to obtain the inheritance in the remains of heart. Heh? You're so unyielding that you'd rather fight to the death than bow your head? But who can persevere to the end like you?" Lin Sun and the others were bewildered. It seemed that the old ape knew some secrets about the remains of heart, which was why he was sighing with emotion. In the end, the old ape agreed to Lin Sun's request. Moreover, as he had said earlier, he didn't want to make things difficult for Lin Sun and decided to make a fair deal with him. Therefore, while agreeing to Lin Sun's condition, he offered to let Lin Sun study the complete Tao scripture. Seeing such a good thing, how could Lin Sun refuse it? Without hesitation, he took out the part of the Tao scripture he obtained from the sacred island of 5 elements and handed it to the old ape. The old ape took out the other part and pieced them together to form a complete Tao scripture. Following that, the old macaque performed a secret technique to make the complete scripture seem like it was activated, revealing its true mystery. You only have one chance to study it. How much you can remember depends on your ability, said the old ape with a solemn expression. Lin Sun immediately sat cross-legged and operated all the power of his divine soul to study it. Boom! In an instant, the aura of a saint emerged in his sea of consciousness. It was sacred and boundless, and it converged into a beautiful chapter. Every word was glittering and flowing with mysterious and immeasurable Taoist light. This was the secret text of the saint. It was strange and obscure like the carrier of the Great Way. He couldn't comprehend it. In an instant Lin Sun's heart shook. Every word seemed to be all-encompassing and contained infinite mysteries. Not to mention identifying it, he couldn't even see a trace of mystery from it. It was so obscure and sublime that it made Lin Sun's divine soul throb as if falling into a vast ocean. He had an illusion of suffocation and drowning. This was the power of the saint. It was not something that Lin Sun could peek at his current realm. Buzz. At the critical moment, Lin Sun ran the meditating magic. The stars in his sea of consciousness shone brightly and the divine moon hung in the sky. The Dharma form was magnificent and boundless. He no longer tried to comprehend it. Instead, he used the power of his divine soul to copy and remember every word of the Tao scripture. He couldn't peek and comprehend it now, but it didn't mean he couldn't in the future. What Lin Sun needed to do now was to memorize and brand this Tao scripture. When he stepped into the divine path one day, he would be able to figure out its meaning, comprehend its essence, and control it. Lin Sun sat cross-legged on the ground with a solemn look. Old Toad and Zhao Jingxian couldn't help but envy him. Tao scripture of the saint. Even if it couldn't be comprehended now, its value was immeasurable. This was a supreme inheritance. If those life-death realm kings who had passed the immortality tribulation knew about it, they would go crazy with envy. The divine path was ethereal and supreme. If he could have the help of a complete Tao scripture when he stepped into this realm, it would be like adding wings to a tiger, and he wouldn't have to worry about cultivation anymore. Senior, can we comprehend it? Old Toad looked at Old Ape expectantly with a drooling face. There are thousands of great Taos. Practitioners should abide by their own great Taos in order to reach the peak. This method is the inheritance of our tribe, which conflicts with the secret knowledge of your 3-legged golden toad. I advise you not to think about it, otherwise your Taoist heart will be in chaos, which will do you more harm than good. Old Ape pointed at Old Toad, which made the latter suddenly depressed. He shouted, "Why can this guy do it, but I can't?" Old Ape said calmly, "You can't comprehend it now either. Do you think anyone can comprehend the inheritance of the divine path?" Old Toad fell silent. It was true. Before long, Lin soon opened his eyes from meditation, and a deep sense of exhaustion appeared between his eyebrows. Just now, even memorizing that Tao scripture consumed too much of his soul, and he almost couldn't bear it. The reason was that this was a complete inheritance of the divine path. There were endless mysteries in it, obscure and profound. Even memorizing it was extremely strenuous. "How much?" Old Toad asked hurriedly. "Almost all," Lin Sun said in a low voice. At this moment, on the simple and unadorned platform in his body, a piece of obscure Tao scripture was imprinted, faintly discernible and mysterious. "You've memorized all of it?" Hearing this, Old Ape was finally moved, and his eyes became strange. He had thought that it would be good enough if Lin Sun could memorize a part of the divine path. Who would have thought that he seemed to have memorized all of it? Old Ape couldn't help but feel a little stunned. He was a little uncertain whether it was right or wrong to let Lin Sun study the supreme Tao scripture passed down in his tribe this time. Chapter 628. "Senior, may I ask what this is?" While the old ape was still in shock, Lin Sun had already stood up and asked. "It's called the 9-purity holy light technique, the supreme inheritance of my clan." The old ape looked at Lin Sun with a kind of indescribable complexity in its eyes. "Since you've remembered all of them, maybe it's your destiny. But I hope you won't leak them out. Otherwise, you'll get into great trouble." Lin Sun solemnly agreed with awe. 9-purity holy body technique? Why does it sound so familiar to me? The old toad frowned. Unfortunately, it had lost a lot of memory. No matter how hard it tried, it couldn't think of any valuable clues. Even so, Lin Sun was shocked. A divine secret technique that the old toad was familiar with couldn't be simple. "I have to remind you that when the real great era comes, the young child of my clan will come out of his slumber. You once had a feud with him, so you should resolve it." The old ape suddenly spoke about the young child, who was dormant under the sacred island of 5 elements. "When the great era comes?" Lin Sun pondered. He was a little puzzled by the old ape's attitude. Logically speaking, the old ape should see him as an enemy. However, his attitude was very abnormal and strange. Was it related to the wordless pagoda? Or was it related to the good fortune he obtained from the lost land of heart? Lin Sun was a little uncertain. "Let's go. The secret realm is about to close." The old ape looked up at the sky and made a decision. As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his sleeve and teleported away with Lin Sun and the others. Outside the ultimate. There's no doubt that the young demon god has seized the greatest good fortune in Xixia Holy Mountain and obtained the inheritance of the Jade Archive and Golden Book. But the demon saint's secret realm is about to close. When he appears, he's doomed. Haha, so what if he has seized more good fortune? In the end, he's doomed to pay the price with his life. There was a lot of discussion in the outside world. The powerhouses of all clans were waiting. The bigwigs of all clans were very calm and indifferent at the moment, but their eyes were fixed on the entrance above the ultimate. They were also waiting for the moment the young demon god would appear. Originally, those big shots were still somewhat afraid of the power of the numinous treasure Holy Land, but now, the numinous treasure Holy Land had long given up and viewed the young man as an abandoned pawn. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for him to leave alive. As time passed, experts from various clans walked out from the entrance of the Beast Saint mystical ground, causing an uproar among the crowd. Everyone realized that it was time for the curtains to this operation to seize the fortuitous encounter to come to an end. Xiao Ran and the others also returned safely, and they told Elder Gao Yang some things. The latter's expression instantly became even more livid. It really was that Lin Xian. Elder, there are numerous fortuitous encounters hidden in this kid's possession. We must kill him this time, and we can't let the other clans benefit from it. Su Xingfeng gritted his teeth. That's right. Senior brother Gong Yangyu was also killed by him. If we do not get rid of him today, he will become a great threat in the future. When Xiang and Yunche also spoke up. Don't worry, he won't be able to escape today. Elder Gao Yang's face was livid and cold, and his eyes were full of murderous intent. Everyone, when this kid appears, I only have one request, and that is to be the first to capture him. As for the fortuitous encounters on him, you can take them all. At this moment, Grandma Tiansha of the Dragon Whale clan spoke. The holy son of the Dragon Whale clan, as well as the experts who had followed them into the Demon Saint mystical ground, were almost all killed by Lin Sun. This made her so angry that she was about to go crazy. Old hag! Who are you talking about? How arrogant of you! At the entrance of the Demon Saint mystical ground, a disdainful rebuke suddenly sounded. Two rays of golden light shot out of Grandma Tiansha's eyes. In an instant, she saw the figures of Lin Sun, Zhao Jingxian, and the others walking out of the Demon Saint mystical ground. The one who spoke so arrogantly was naturally the old toad. It's him. That young devil. Oh my God, he actually dared to come out. This is so unexpected. Outside the ultimate, there was a sudden uproar. All the experts' eyes were attracted by this, and they were in an uproar. Little bastards, how dare you still be so arrogant at this time? The experts of the Dragon Whale clan outside roared angrily. They were so angry that they were full of murderous intent. The young devil had made them lose face, and they could not wait to rush up and kill him. In addition, the experts of the Blood Lion clan, Demon Elephant clan, Blackwood clan, Jade Unicorn clan, Water Ape clan, and other clans also looked gloomy. They stared at Lin Sun, wanting to kill him immediately. Even the dominant forces like the Herculean Ox clan, the Golden Phoenix clan, and the Cloud Monkey clan looked hostile, and their murderous intent soared to the sky. It could be said that Lin Sun's standing there was like a lighthouse, especially attracting hatred. He attracted the attention of all the clans, and they all hated and glared at him. I say, everyone, are you welcoming us? Ha ha, what a great show of force. But why are you so angry? It's as if we have killed your whole family. The old toad laughed, and he looked like he was talking and laughing. The faces of the experts darkened, and they gritted their teeth in hatred. Little bastard, you still dare to be so sharp-tongued when you are about to die. Grandma Tiansha's tone was cold. Humph! The big shots of the clans also looked cold. Old bastard, what are you yelling for? Come over if you have the guts. I'll kill you first. The old toad squinted, pointed at Grandma Tiansha, and scolded her. Grandma Tiansha was so angry that her whole body stiffened. Old bastard? How dare this green-robed young man call her an old bastard? He should be hacked into pieces. I'll go kill him. Damn it, you're courting death. Many experts couldn't stand it anymore. There were the Dragon Whale clan and other clans, and they had too many enemies. Even Su Xingfeng shouted coldly, Lin Sun, you are about to die, but you don't know how to kneel down and repent. You are still so arrogant. You are destined to die today. Everyone, no matter what, this man is related to our holy land of spirit treasure. Why don't you let me kill him? Elder Gao Yang also spoke. He was full of murderous intent, and his eyes were like lightning as he locked on Lin Sun. Lin Sun had been looking on coldly until he heard Elder Gao Yang's voice. He immediately smiled and realized that he had guessed right. Whether it was the experts of the various races or the holy land of Lingbao, they obviously didn't intend to let him go. Senior, I have to trouble you. Lin Sun looked at the old ape. It's a piece of cake. The old ape had a carefree expression on his face as he stood there. He seemed extremely old and inconspicuous, but from the beginning until the end, he was completely unfazed. It was as if he didn't take anyone seriously at all. Let the Holy Land of Spirit Treasure deal with me? I'll be the first to disagree. Grandma Tiansha sneered. She had endured for a long time and could no longer suppress her killing intent. She suddenly stood up and stretched out her hand to grab Lin Sun. Boom! A large hand blotted out the sky and was coiled with terrifying divine radiance, and it was monstrously terrifying. Everyone was horrified. They didn't expect that Grandma Tiansha, a life-death realm expert, would attack Lin Sun, a junior, regardless of her identity. It could be seen how angry she was. This guy is too arrogant. Kill him, and our Bloody Lion clan will have a share. In another direction, with a loud shout, the ancestor of the Bloody Lion clan also attacked at the same time. Humph! Elder Gao Yang's face darkened. Naturally, he couldn't tolerate being attacked by others. Without hesitation, he took out his divine furnace of birds and shrouded Lin Sun. In addition, some other big shots also attacked at almost the same time. This scene was undoubtedly shocking to the world. A group of life-death realm experts attacked together, striving to be the first to kill Lin Sun. This horrified all the experts present and almost suffocated them. But as long as they thought about it carefully, it was normal. Lin Sun had a great fortune. Putting aside hatred, just to seize such a great fortune, no one was willing to fall behind. Boom! The world was in turmoil. When a life-death realm expert attacked, the divine power was enough to overturn mountains and seas, and destroy mountains and rivers. But now, a group of life-death realm experts attacked. The void collapsed, the divine light shot into the sky, and the terrible power of the Great Way intertwined. It was as if the world was going to be destroyed. Kill! That kid must be killed. At this moment, Su Xingfeng and the others of Spirit Treasure Holy Land, Niu Tunshan of Herculean Demonic Bull Clan, Meng Lianqing of Golden Phoenix Clan, Kong Xiu of Cloud Dragon Clan, and other experts who had been defeated by Lin Sun gnashed their teeth with excited expressions. No one believed that Lin Sun could survive at this moment. All the experts were concerned about was who would be the first to kill Lin Sun and snatch away his fortune. Unfortunately, they all overlooked the old ape beside Lin Sun. Bang! At the same time as the group of life-death realm experts attacked, the old ape, who had been hiding all this time, suddenly straightened his back and looked around. Two lightning-like dazzling Dao light shot out from his eyes, tearing apart the void. Crack! The huge hand that Grandma Tiansha had struck out from afar suddenly crumbled like a piece of paper. Dong! The spiritual sword of the Bloody Lion clan's ancestor wailed and became dim like a dead snake, almost falling into the sea. At the same time, the terrifying attacks that came from all directions actually seemed as if they couldn't withstand a single blow, and all of them were shattered into pieces before transforming into a violent rain of light that rained down. And the cause of this was merely the two beams of light shot out from the old ape's eyes. In other words, the old ape destroyed the attacks of the group of life-death realm experts with the power of a pair of eyes. It was too inconceivable, but it was happening right before their eyes. The experts of various clans were shocked. Their expressions slightly changed, and their eyes flickered with a divine light as they looked at the old ape. There was such a frightening existence beside that kid? The scene was deathly silent. The experts of various clans were shocked, and their eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. They couldn't believe what was happening. That was the attack of a group of life-death realm experts. How could it be so easily dealt with? It was too frightening. At this moment, the excitement in Su Xingfeng's group, Niu Tunshan, and Meng Lianqing's hearts disappeared, as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over them. Their minds were in a daze. How could this be? Chapter 629. Lin Sun and the others were shocked as well. They had foreseen that the old ape would be very powerful, but they did not expect it to be this powerful. The attacks of the life and death realm kings were easily dissolved. The old ape had probably already reached the saint realm. The whole place was silent. Even the ferocious bull demon King Nyoshiari was shocked. His expression was serious, and he could not see through the old ape. What surprised them the most was that they clearly saw the old ape walk out of the secret realm of monsters with Lin Sun and the others. Such a terrifying existence was not suppressed by the power of the demon saint realm. Could it really be a living demon saint? Opportunities are taken by oneself. This is a fight between the younger generation. Yet, you all attacked with hatred and bullied the weak. You all have no magnanimity. In the silence, the old ape spoke calmly. His voice was not loud, but it reverberated through the whole place with an oppressive aura. Many people's expressions changed. Was he reprimanding them? This man is cruel and has committed too many sins. He has killed too many of our people. Should he not be punished? Grandma Tianxa's expression was ugly, and she was so angry that her eyes were about to pop out. Old woman, shut up. There are bound to be casualties in the fight for opportunities. Are you the only one allowed to kill others and not allow others to kill you? Simply rude and unreasonable. The old toad yelled. You are seeking death. Grandma Tianxa's face turned green with anger. She waved her sleeves, and thousands of rays of light shot toward the old toad. Humph! The old ape frowned and let out a cold snort. But like a clap of thunder, the rays of light were shattered into pieces. As if struck by lightning, Grandma Tianxia felt a sharp pain in her heart. Her body shook violently, and she coughed out a mouthful of blood. This made many people's eyelids twitch. Was he really a saint? Otherwise, how could he have such a horrifying aura? The old toad was furious as well. He yelled, Old bastard, you are more than shameless. You are too shameless. I have never seen an old thing as shameless as you. You, the heaven slaughterer. Granny's entire body trembled. She was so angry that she clenched her teeth so hard that they almost broke. In front of everyone's eyes, she, the grand ancestor of the Dragon Whale clan, a life and death realm being, had been scolded by the old toad. When had she ever been humiliated like this? What about you? Are you speechless? Old Toad was very pleased with himself. Everyone could see that Lin Sun and his companions dared to show up without fear because of the old ape. This made them hate Lin Sun and his companions, and they couldn't help but feel extremely afraid. Fellow Taoist, you probably don't know what kind of person this kid is, and that's why you're protecting him. Meanwhile, Elder Gao Yang spoke with a solemn expression. This kid came with us, yet he harmed the companions by his side while seizing the fortune. His methods are cruel, his disposition is vile, and he can be said to be extremely vicious. I hope fellow Taoist will reconsider and not continue protecting him. Lin Sun's face darkened. He really didn't expect that a person like Elder Gao Yang would confuse black and white and fabricate right and wrong. Who are you? The old ape looked over. The 36th generation successor of the spirit treasure sacred land, Gao Yang. Gao Yang replied casually. I don't know you. The old ape withdrew its gaze and didn't look at him again. Gao Yang's face suddenly became extremely embarrassed. In the past, as long as he mentioned the name of the spirit treasure sacred land, anyone would have to be polite to him. But now, he was directly ignored. Seeing this, Lin Sun almost burst out laughing. The old ape seemed to be calm, but his words were really direct and domineering. Fellow Taoist, do you really want to offend all the forces here for this kid? Gao Yang gritted his teeth and asked in a deep voice. All of a sudden, all eyes were focused on the old ape. First, I'm not familiar with you, so don't call me fellow Taoist. We have different goals, so we can't work together. The old ape frowned and corrected Lin Sun. Second, in my opinion, it's not me who offends you, but you who offend me. The consequences will only be more serious. As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere became more and more silent. They all realized that the old ape was protecting Lin Sun and his companions. This made their faces extremely gloomy, and they felt extremely unwilling and angry. As for the so-called big shots like you, you're just SOSO. You can bully the younger generation now, but in the future, when the great battle comes, the whole world is destined to belong to the younger generation. I'm afraid you'll pay the price sooner or later. The old ape's eyes swept over those big shots one by one, making them nervous and afraid to look at him. The old ape ignored them and glanced at the entrance of the secret realm of Monster Saint behind him, saying, "There's not much time left. I'll send you away now. Senior, please wait a moment." Suddenly, Zhao Jingxian opened her mouth and looked at Lin Sun with her clear eyes. "No matter what, I'm still the successor of the Spirit Treasure Sacred Land, so, you want to go back with them." Lin Sun immediately understood and couldn't help frowning. But what if they dare not? If they want to return to the ancient Desolation territory, they must use the secret passage of the Empire, which has been firmly controlled by my father. No matter how much they hate me, they dare not do anything to me as long as my father is there. Zhao Jingxian explained. Lin Sun was speechless for a while. Zhao Jingxian had her own considerations and principles, and she didn't want to betray her sect. Lin Sun understood this very well. However, he was worried that now everyone present had seen that Zhao Jingxian was with him. It would be troublesome if she encountered an accident on the way back. Take this. When you're in danger, just drop your blood on it and you'll be safe. Suddenly, the old ape opened his mouth and handed a green jade talisman shaped like a leaf to Zhao Jingxian. "Thank you, Senior." Lin Sun immediately became excited and bowed. "This is for Miss Zhao." "What are you thanking me for? Do you really think you're her man?" Old Toad sneered. Lin Sun slapped the back of Old Toad's head. Without any delay, the old ape waved his sleeve and tore a space-time tunnel in the void. Then, he picked up Lin Sun and Old Toad and threw them into the tunnel. "Take care." The old ape's words were concise and comprehensive. "No!" Suddenly, an unwilling and angry roar came from afar. It turned out to be Grandma Tiansha. She came across the sky and waved her hand to attack. She was going to destroy the tunnel in the void. Obviously, she couldn't tolerate Lin Sun leaving safely. Humph! The old ape seemed to be irritated. A cold light flashed in his eyes. He reached out his hand and made a grabbing motion. With a muffled sound, the world shook. Grandma Tiansha stiffened and then exploded in the air, turning into a rain of light. She died on the spot. Hiss! All the people present gasped and shivered. How could a life-death realm overlord be killed so easily? It was as easy as killing a chicken or a monkey. What was the origin of the old ape? It was too terrifying. Even the bigwigs of various races stared blankly at the moment. Their hearts twitched violently and they felt an unprecedented chill. They finally realized that the old ape was definitely a sage. Otherwise, how could he have such terrifying means? Buzz! The void here fluctuated, and with a roar they disappeared with Lin Sun and Old Toad. "Take care." Watching them leave, Zhao Jingxian was stunned. Her clear eyes were filled with disappointment and she suddenly felt an inexplicable emptiness in her heart. "Go!" The old ape waved his sleeve and teleported Zhao Jingxian to Elder Gao Yang's treasured ship in the distance. Then, the old ape turned and walked into the entrance of the demon saint's secret realm with his hands behind his back and disappeared. From the beginning to the end, no one dared to stop him. After the old ape left, the entrance of the demon saint's secret realm also disappeared. The sky above the ultimate had completely calmed down. However, the powerhouses of various races at the scene looked gloomy and ashen. A strong sense of unwillingness and defeat surged in their hearts. The bigwigs' eyes were deep. They had been shocked by the old ape earlier, which made them feel humiliated. They were so frightened and aggrieved that they wanted to vomit blood. What happened today was too shocking and could not be concealed. Before long, it would spread to the depths of the soul Oblivion Sea and be known by all living beings. The young demon god had provoked all the races and snubbed their authority, but he had left safely in the end. This was undoubtedly a great humiliation to all the races. It was believed that from today on, the young demon god would also become the focus of attention and be unforgettable to all the races. The space-time tunnel was extremely mysterious. It was imprinted with the supreme laws of time and void. Traveling through it was like strolling in the stars. But this didn't mean it was safe. On the contrary, if the old ape hadn't opened it himself, the space-time power alone was enough to tear Lin Sun and the old toad apart. "Let's go!" Lin Sun and the old toad ran wildly. The space was distorted and deep. It was colorful and looked stable, but it was full of terrifying cracks and chaotic power. A slight delay might crush them. Suddenly, Lin Sun took a deep breath. He glanced at the void outside the tunnel and saw a corpse of thousands of meters long floating between meteorites and turbulence. The corpse was wearing a broken battlesuit. No one knew how long it had been since it died. Don't look. This is a disaster scene in the turbulence of spacetime. It's the most ominous. It's said in ancient times that when crossing spacetime, it's the most taboo to encounter this kind of thing. The old toad looked nervous, running wildly with Lin Sun. According to the old toad, the law of spacetime was the most mysterious, like a taboo. Crossing it was like wading in the chaos, unknown and terrible. Among them, the most taboo was encountering all sorts of strange and ominous scenes. There were mysterious corpses, black holes that engulfed everything, light showers that resembled the land of immortals, and even some heavenly melodious songs. All of these were ominous. Knowing this, Lin Sun couldn't help but be moved. The space-time tunnel spanned across the void and covered the 9 heavens and 10 earth. It was unknown and taboo. If he hadn't set foot in it today, Lin Sun couldn't imagine that there were so many strange things in it. There was no accident on the way. The tunnel they stepped in was personally opened by the old ape and was quite stable. They almost reached the end without any danger along the way. Buzz. Soon, the void fluctuated. With a flash, Lin Sun and the old toad jumped out of a space node and came to the outside world. Chapter 630. The sky was azure, clear, and translucent without a trace of impurities. The sea breeze blew gently, and it carried a refreshing aura that was distant and melodious. The water in this sea area was clear, the sun was warm, and the waves were boundless, vast and distant like a fairyland. A small boat was drifting on the sea, slowly heading west. From time to time, old Toad's unique laughter could be heard in the boat. He was counting his harvest in the secret realm of demons, grinning from ear to ear. What a great harvest! There were numerous rare spiritual herbs, minerals, and all kinds of treasures collected from the enemy's bodies. It was a dazzling lineup of treasures. This made Old Toad feel extremely satisfied. What delighted him most was that he had also found the talent inheritance of the 3-legged golden toad while comprehending in the ancient temple at the top of the mountain. In the past, his combat capability had always been insignificant, and he was always in a sorry state when being hunted down. If it weren't for his thick skin and tenacious vitality, he wouldn't know how many times he would have been killed. But now it was different. He had begun to comprehend the inherited cultivation method of his own lineage, and it was only a matter of time before his combat capability became stronger. Damn it, it's so unfair. However, when Old Toad saw Lin Sun, who was also counting his spoils, he was stunned. His complacency disappeared, and his eyes turned red with jealousy. On the ground in front of Lin Sun, there were mountains of rare spiritual herbs, rare treasures, and spiritual materials. There were also mountains of all kinds of treasures. Sabers, spears, swords, and halberds were common, but the rarest thing was that there were many ancient treasures. In addition, there were more than 10 kinds of Taoist manuals, bottles and jars of elixirs, and stacks of rare high-grade spiritual crystals. There were too many. As far as the eye could see, the treasure light was magnificent, glittering and dazzling, illuminating the cabin. Not to mention Old Toad, even other practitioners would go crazy with envy if they saw this. These were, of course, Lin Sun's spoils. Some of them were found by himself, but most of them were obtained from the enemies. As the saying went, a man would not be rich without a windfall, and a horse would not be fat without grass at night. No wonder in the secret realm of demons, the strong of all races like to kill people and rob their treasures. This way of obtaining opportunities by violence was simply the most direct and effective way to accumulate wealth. Howl! Old Toad pounced over without a care for its image, looking like it wanted a piece of the action. Go to hell! Lin Sun slapped him on the back of the head, and then kicked him out. This prince has been at your beck and call along the way. Even if I haven't done anything meritorious, I should at least have worked hard, right? Don't tell me you want to hog everything for yourself? Old Toad's expression was bitter. Lin Sun put away all the trophies and said, You don't lack treasures now. It's a waste to give them to you. Old Toad gritted its teeth in anger. Who would have thought that you'd actually talk about monopolizing the food in such a righteous and awe-inspiring manner? You're simply too shameless. This king has never seen someone more shameless and black-hearted than you. Lin Sun rolled his eyes, ignored him, and took out the wordless pagoda. In fact, the biggest gain from entering the demon saint mystic realm was hidden in the first level of the wordless pagoda. This was because hidden within were the spoils of war obtained from the bodies of the chosen. For example, the holy daughter of the blood lion race, Lin Lang, and the holy son of the dragon whale race, Yu Shaosheng. For example, the chosen and Gong Yangyu of the Green Scale clan were completely killed, so the treasures they left behind were naturally extraordinary. Similarly, Niu Tunshan, Kongxiu, and Xian Luozi were also defeated by Lin Sun. Although their souls eventually escaped, their bodies and treasures were left on the spot. Without exception, all of these became Lin Sun's spoils of war. At this time, Lin Sun was sorting out these more valuable spoils of war. During this process, it caused him to feel slightly horrified, and he gasped without end. There were too many kinds of treasures, and all of them were of high quality. It was difficult to even find an ordinary one. In particular, there was a dragonbone halberd left by Yu Shaosheng and a green jade ruler left by the chosen of the Green Scale clan. These two were obviously the secret ancestral treasures of their respective clans. The dragonbone halberd was called Sky Sealing Halberd. The green jade ruler was called Ruler of Chaos. Even if suppressed in the wordless pagoda, these two secret treasures were still struggling freely. Their spirituality could not be subdued, which was extremely magical. Lin Sun had no doubt that once they were taken out, he would not be able to suppress them with his own strength. Instead, he would let them escape. Fortunately, the wordless pagoda was quite magical and bound them all. However, in a short period of time, Lin Sun could not use them at all, unless he had the ability to completely refine these two secret treasures. However, it was obvious that Lin Sun was far from being able to do so. Apart from that, what these chosen possessed the most were the various elixirs and cultivation techniques needed for cultivation. For example, the Blood Lion race's Panwu True Scripture, the Dragon Whale race's Freedom Swallowing Technique, the Herculean Bull race's True Underworld Thunder Body Tempering Technique, the Cloud Monkey race's Six Shell Demon Sealing Scripture, and so on. Each cultivation method had its own magic and belonged to the secret inheritance of each clan. It contained the essence of Great Way and was invaluable. If it was leaked out, it would definitely cause chaos and countless practitioners would fight and kill each other. Now, these secret inheritance ancient books were all in Lin Sun's pocket. It was no wonder that the big shots outside the ultimate ruins were so angry that they wanted to kill Lin Sun. No one could tolerate the secret cultivation methods of their own clan being taken away by others. Unfortunately, although these ancient books are magical, they can only be used for reference and speculation. There are very few suitable for my own cultivation, Lin Sun sighed with emotion. Although there were many cultivation methods, if they were in conflict with one's own great way, it was destined that they could not be controlled by him. Of course, this did not mean that these secret methods were not valuable, but it was just a matter of whether they were suitable or not. Even if they were not suitable, he could figure out and use them for reference to make up and improve his own great way. Finally found it. Not long after, Lin Sun's eyes lit up with excitement. A spirit flower that was pure white like jade and translucent to the point of seeming illusory had appeared in his field of vision. There were 9 petals on the flower, and every single one of them was enshrouded with the aura of the Tao. They flowed with a divine glow, and they emanated strands of the refreshing fragrance of the Tao. Refining sea soul flower. In order to find this flower and help Vulture get rid of the devil's calamity powder, Lin Sun promised Zhao Jingxian to explore the secret realm of demons. However, after entering the secret realm of demons, too many twists and turns happened, so that Lin Sun found nothing even if he searched all the way. Fortunately, he got a lot of trophies this time. After a careful search, he found this rare flower. With this thing, Vulture can restore his previous cultivation. Lin Sun thought of Vulture in Xiao Empire and Xiaji, Lin Zhong and Young Ku on Heart Cleansing Peak. It had been nearly 3 months since he went to the secret realm of demons. It didn't seem to be a long time, but Lin Sun had an illusion that it was a lifetime ago. Boy, don't you think that your biggest gain this time is this pagoda? At this time, Old Toad suddenly spoke, which awakened Lin Sun from his contemplation. Old Toad stared at the wordless pagoda with fiery eyes, but his expression was very solemn. It's because of it that you obtained that mysterious Taoist hymn. It's also because of it that the old ape's attitude towards you was quite abnormal. Not only did he not harm you, but he also allowed you to study the 9 pure holy body technique Taoist scripture. In the end, he even sent us away safely. Speaking of this, Old Toad's expression became more solemn, and he said word by word, "So it can be concluded that the origin of this pagoda is absolutely beyond imagination." Lin Sun nodded. He also thought so. He even speculated that there must be a great connection between the wordless pagoda and the mysterious remains of heart. However, you have to be careful. The greater the origin of this pagoda, the more terrible the karma you will get. Old Toad reminded Lin Sun. Lin Sun was awestruck. He only had a vague understanding of karma at present. But it could be foreseen that if the origin of this pagoda was really beyond imagination, then one day it might really bring him some unpredictable karma. This reminded Lin Sun of the heaven-accessing place in the Sea of Consciousness. Wasn't its mysterious origin the same as this wordless pagoda? After thinking for a long time, Lin Sun finally smiled and said, "The gains and losses of karma have accompanied me on my Taoist path. If I blindly cling to it and worry about it, it will disturb my state of mind." "You're enlightened?" Old Toad was surprised. "Enlighten my ass," Lin Sun said grumpily. "I'm saying things have already happened. Who cares if it's a blessing or a curse in the future?" Old Toad was immediately amused and laughed. Yes, yes, yes. That's what we cultivators should do." The sea was blue, calm and auspicious. From time to time, fish leaped out, splashing waves. In the sky, phoenixes fluttered and seagulls cried, distant and distant. The boat carried Lin Sun and Old Toad all the way to the west. The speed was not fast, because neither of them could determine where they were now. When dusk fell, a red sun fell to the west, sprinkling orange glow, dyeing the blue sea with a layer of fiery red, shimmering like the sunset glow, magnificent and magnificent. "It's beautiful." Lin Sun stood at the bow of the boat, his black hair fluttering and his white robe fluttering in the sea breeze. With his hands behind his back, he looked at the sunset and the fiery sea, and couldn't help but sigh with emotion at the magic of nature. Ignorant. There was a sacred ground in the primordial times called Sunset Tang Gorge. There was a suncrow divine beast that transformed into a sun that resided there all year round, and it emanated divine lights that illuminated the world. Such a scene could be said to be a wonder of the heavens and the earth, a divine show of creation. Next to him, Old Toad looked contemptuous. Sunset Tang Valley? Since it's a holy place in ancient times, have you ever seen it? It seems that you've only heard of it. Lin Sun took the wine gourd and drank contentedly. In his field of vision, he could already see the stars reflected in the sky, and the night was coming. Dusk was the time when day and night alternated, and the clear and turbid were separated. The changes in the scene were the most thrilling. Just like at this moment, the sea was steaming like the sunset glow, the setting sun was far away, and the stars in the sky were looming in the twilight. It was the time when the day was about to pass and the night was about to come. Standing on the boat on the sea, facing the sea breeze, Lin Sun looked into the distance. It seemed that there was only one boat left between the heaven and the earth. The tranquil and remote mood made Lin Sun feel a sense of sublimation and detachment. Chapter 631. As early as in the secret realm of demons, Lin Sun's cultivation had reached the mastery of the Tao insight realm. Later, in the ancient temple, he reshaped his own Tao, which was equivalent to sublimating his cultivation to the extreme, becoming round and perfect. That was until he experienced a battle with 4 top saints and grasped the battle saint technique's fundamental secrets in battle. Undoubtedly, Lin Sun's strength had undergone another round of tempering. Yet now, as he stood on the small boat, his mind was completely relaxed, and he experienced the beauty of the creation of the heavens and the earth. The vital energy in his entire body instantly resonated with him. So, the signs of breaking through the realm came naturally. The sea breeze was blowing gently, and the sky was close to dusk. The clear and turbid sea was like fire, and the sky was full of stars, majestic and distant. Lin Sun stood upright, as if he was going to transcend the world and fly away with the wind. At this moment, his mind was pure and clear. Looking at the sky, he asked softly, "Where is Tao?" Old Toad next to him was stunned and looked at Lin Sun. It was rare that it didn't make jokes. He said in a low voice, "I think Tao is like the sea in front of me, and all the streams in the world belong to it." After thinking for a while, Old Toad said again, "Tao is like the setting sun, hiding in the night and shining in the day, going round and round." Lin Sun shook his head. "If it were me, I would fill the sea and break the sun. How could Tao exist?" Old Toad widened its eyes and said, "Good boy, you can't bear to see me meditating on the profound meaning of Tao?" Lin Sun suddenly laughed. "If it's the existence of Tao, how could there be sea and sun? Then tell me, where is Tao?" Old Toad was very dissatisfied. Lin Sun said nothing and took a step forward. Suddenly, an invisible airflow rushed out of Lin Sun's body, went straight to the sky and broke the clouds. On the distant surface of the sea, countless waves surged. Every single drop of water reflected the magnificent changes of the world. Tens of thousands of water droplets transformed into waves that rose and fell, surging endlessly. Groups after groups of colorful fish leaped out of the waves, drawing beautiful trajectories in the air. Not long after, this area of the sea surged, as if it had come alive from silence. Waves splashed, shoals of fish patrolled, and the setting sun sprinkled down a rosy red that was like a dream. The stars in the sky twinkled as if they were inhaling and exhaling. This scene was like a painting that was balanced between movement and stillness, and it contained the beauty of the heavens and the earth. Lin Sun, on the other hand, was a man in the painting. His whole body was full of qi, like splashing ink, rendering such a painting. The fish leaped into the sea, and the flowers bloomed on the other shore. This is the Tao. Lin Sun turned his head and looked at Old Toad, his black eyes deep and clear. The Old Toad stared blankly at Lin Sun in front of him. The picturesque world in the distance seemed to have become his background. There was an indescribable shock in his heart. This is my Tao. Lin Sun turned around again and looked into the distance. At this moment, the setting sun disappeared in the horizon, and the night finally came. The sky was full of stars, shining like gems. An icy moon rose into the sky and flowed with clear radiance, and it emanated an expanse of crystalline sound waves on the surface of the ocean. This sea area became more and more tranquil and remote. The old toad stared blankly for a long time and couldn't help cursing. Damn it, how could you advance so naturally? This sentence immediately destroyed the mood and ruined the scenery. Lin soon stiffened all over, and the corners of his mouth twitched imperceptibly. After a while, he couldn't help laughing. In the end, he couldn't help but look up to the sky and laugh, full of joy and open-mindedness, resounding through the world. Indeed, he had advanced. With one step, accompanied by the picturesque vision of the fish leaped into the sea, and the flowers bloomed on the other shore, he stepped into the middle realm of Tao insight. Everything happened naturally, just like the moon was full and the water overflowed when it was full. This was Lin Sun's path of Tao, the road to the top after the extreme perfection. Whether it was cultivation or advancement, it was destined to be different from the world. The moonlight was like water, and the clear radiance sprinkled on the sea, sparkling like silver. On the boat, Lin Sun sat at a table at random, tasting the golden and glossy cloudworm meat and drinking wine. The old toad was working hard to roast the meat, very happy and excited. This was the body of Xianluozi, the holy son of the mysterious turtle tribe, but he directly roasted it and ate it. At first, Lin Sun refused, feeling that it was like eating people. But the old toad righteously taught him that the mysterious turtle was a fierce beast in the sea and a kind of supreme delicacy. In ancient times, many sages praised it. Lin Sun hesitated for a moment, then forced himself to take a bite. Then, he abandoned all scruples and couldn't stop eating at all. As the old toad said, the meat of the mysterious turtle was so delicious, tender and chewy that it could be called a supreme delicacy without any seasoning. Hey, don't eat so much. Leave some for me. Seeing that Lin Sun ate so fast, the old toad immediately became anxious and rushed up to grab the meat. As he ate, he praised, "It's so damn delicious. Next time, let's eat the cow and the cloudworm too. It's such a waste to throw them away." Lin Sun didn't say anything and just ate heartily. The more the old toad talked, the more excited it became. I heard that the ancient sages once tasted the real dragon liver and phoenix marrow. It's said that it's a supreme delicacy that even the gods covet. One day I'll have to taste it myself. Childs, would you like me to have a taste? Suddenly, a string of laughter like silver bells rang out, clear and intoxicating, like the sounds of nature. On the sea at night, a rain of light sprinkled down and turned into a graceful figure, stepping on the waves. The old toad was startled and immediately shouted fiercely, "Who are you? How dare you approach so rashly? Believe it or not, I'll kill you." He, Child's mouth is really fierce. With the voice, the beautiful figure approached. In the dim moonlight, a girl in a yellow dress appeared. Her pretty face was white and elegant, with curved eyebrows, a sharp chin, sparkling eyes, and a mischievous smile on her lips. She was like a sea elf. Even Lin Sun couldn't help feeling amazed at this moment. "Humph, I'm not only fierce, I'm also fierce." The old toad snorted coldly. He was very vigilant. "Ah, it's fate that we meet. Why be so fierce? I've taken the initiative to ask. Do you have the heart to drive me away?" The girl in the yellow dress had a delicate and beautiful face. As she spoke, she stepped onto the boat. Her dress fluttered in the wind, making her snow-white and beautiful body look graceful and charming. I've never seen such a woman who takes advantage of the situation. She's really thick-skinned. The old toad mocked. The girl in the yellow dress giggled and didn't take it seriously. She sat down at the table freely and said, "My name is Ah-Hu. Nice to meet you, Childs." She had a very special kind of beauty. Her temperament was ethereal, like an otherworldly fairy. But her figure was slim and graceful, and her small waist was graceful and extremely tempting. Especially when she smiled, her big eyes were intelligent and her red lips were moist. She was breathtakingly beautiful. She had the temperament of a fairy and the figure of a witch, giving people a kind of changeable and lively unique style. The old toad didn't appreciate it. He glared at her and was about to scold her, but was stopped by Lin Sun. "It turns out to be Miss Ah Hu. May I know why you're here?" Lin Sun asked with a smile. "I'd like a cup of wine to eat, and it's best to taste this black turtle meat." Ah Hu's eyes were intelligent and she was smiling. There was a kind of ethereal beauty on her clean oval face. Lin Sun also smiled and said, "Please." He felt very interesting. It was so interesting that such a unique and beautiful girl suddenly came to this unknown night sea area. Ah Hu didn't stand on ceremony. Without the restraint that ordinary girls should have, she directly picked up the wine pot with a pair of white and crystal hands and poured herself a full cup. At the same time, she tore open the golden and glossy black turtle meat and stuffed it directly into her bright red mouth. She ate the meat and drank the wine at the same time, looking very comfortable and natural, as if she didn't treat herself as an outsider. This made Lin Sun feel that this girl was more and more interesting. The old toad gritted its teeth and sat down on one side, also fighting to eat, as if it was very unwilling to let this girl enjoy the delicious food alone. Oh, the black turtle meat is so delicious, the taste can be said to be superb. Ah Hu ate until her cheeks bulged out, her lustrous red lips were full of oil, and her big and intelligent eyes narrowed, full of enjoyment and satisfaction. "Foodie, don't you worry that you'll be as fat as a ball?" the old toad mocked. "He, not afraid." Ah Hu smiled very sweetly. She sat there bathed in the moonlight, ethereal and graceful, with a kind of frank beauty. "Where are you going, childs?" After eating for a while, Ah Hu stretched and wiped her lustrous red lips with her hand, asking curiously. "Xiao Empire," Lin Sun said casually. Ah Hu said in surprise, "Ah, that's very far and the road is dangerous. If there is no life and death realm king leading the way, it will be very dangerous." Lin Sun glanced at her. "Miss, you also know Xiao Empire?" Ah Hu nodded and said with a light smile, "I have." She touched her lustrous forehead, thought for a moment and said, "In 7 days, there will be a grand treasure auction in Cloud Canopy Bazaar. It is said that a vast universe ark inherited from ancient times will be auctioned in this auction. If you can get this treasure, you may be able to safely bring childs to Xiao Empire." Cloud Canopy Bazaar, treasure auction, vast universe ark? Lin Sun's heart moved. Just when he was about to ask carefully, Ah Hu had already stood up and said with a smile, "Thank you for your hospitality, childs. In order to avoid bringing trouble to you, I will leave first." Her figure was graceful, her ivory white skin glittered in the moonlight, and her delicate and beautiful face looked very ethereal and holy. As she spoke, she floated away. On the surface of the sea, like a fairy, she came suddenly and left quickly, and soon disappeared. Only a wisp of light and sweet fragrance was left in the air. Old Toad's face was gloomy, and he had a lot of opinions about Ah Hu. He said, "She is obviously a siren. Don't be fooled by her and believe her nonsense. I think that since we met by chance and there is no enmity between us, she should not have any malice, and she should not lie to us." Lin Sun said thoughtfully. Old Toad slapped his forehead and sighed. "It's over, as expected, you've been bewitched by that demoness. A guy like you who is fickle and obsessed with lust has completely lost this king's face. If Miss Zhao finds out, she'll definitely make a clean break with you." Lin Sun rolled his eyes and said grumpily, "You deserve to be single for the rest of your life." Who would have thought that old Toad was not ashamed of it, but proud of it? He said proudly, "How do you know that I have always been clean and self-disciplined, and disdain to talk about love?" Lin Sun felt a touch of pity in his heart. Sure enough, This toad was so sick and hopeless that there was no medicine to save him. What a pity for his handsome and charming pretty face. Chapter 632. The night was as dark as ink, vast and quiet, and the boat sailed slowly. Lin Sun was lost in thought. Yumping Bazaar? What was this place? Also, what power was holding the treasure auction? Lin Sun suddenly found a problem. It was imperative to determine where this sea area was as soon as possible. Otherwise, not to mention returning to Xiao Empire, they might even get lost in this boundless sea. By the way, the demoness said before she left that she would not bring us any trouble, so she said goodbye first. That's not right. Old Toad suddenly said. Lin Sun was startled and said, It's indeed a little strange. That demoness came in a hurry and left in a hurry. Could she be fleeing? Old Toad speculated maliciously. Right at this moment, a dazzling streak suddenly appeared in the distant night sky, and it flashed over like a bolt of lightning, extremely dazzling. It seems you've guessed it. Lin soon noticed at once that this escape light was full of murderous intent and looked very strong. Have you ever seen a girl in a yellow dress? With a swish, the escape light stopped in the void not far away, and a thin figure appeared. His eyes were green, and he had a mustache. His back was slightly hunched, and his skin was pale and translucent, looking somewhat sickly. But he came in a menacing and overbearing manner. Standing proudly in the void, his eyes were like cold lightning, overlooking Lin Sun and Old Toad on the boat, and asked coldly. Lin Sun and Old Toad looked at each other. Sure enough, trouble was coming. No. Old Toad was a little annoyed, feeling that this guy was too rude, as if he were interrogating a prisoner. His attitude was very high, and his words were very blunt. Presumptuous. The thin man's face darkened. There's clearly a trace of the demoness breath on the boat you're on. How dare you lie through your teeth? Haha, since you've already seen it, why ask us? Is there something wrong with you? Old Toad increasingly disliked this man. Originally, he thought that if this person's attitude was a little better, he wouldn't mind telling him some of the truth. But now, he changed his mind. Lin Sun also thought so his eyes on the thin man became colder and colder. How dare you? I asked all of you because I was giving all of you a chance to prove your innocence. Now it would seem like all of you are that demonic woman's accomplices. The skinny man's eyes were filled with killing intent. Is this guy out of his mind? Old Toad asked. Ask him to shake his head and see if he can hear the sound of the sea. Won't you know if his head is flooded? Lin Sun suggested seriously. Startled, Old Toad couldn't help bursting into laughter. This is a brilliant plan. They spoke as if there was no one else present and ridiculed the gaunt man, causing the latter's expression to instantly become extremely icy cold, and he was angered to the point the mustache at the corners of his mouth trembled. All of you, just you wait. The thin man gritted his teeth. As soon as he finished speaking, he actually flicked his sleeve angrily and turned around to leave. Both Lin Sun and Old Toad were stupefied. Such an arrogant guy had just left behind a superficial threat and left just like that? They didn't know that although the thin man seemed to be overbearing and extremely domineering, he was absolutely not an idiot. On the contrary, when he noticed Lin Sun and Old Toad's fearless appearance, he already knew something was wrong and realized something was wrong. Out of caution, he decisively chose to leave and didn't dare to rashly probe again. Ha ha, damn it, I was almost cheated by him just now. It turns out that he's just a good-looking but useless coward. Old Toad laughed. Something's wrong. Let's catch him first. As he spoke, Lin Sun had already disappeared from the boat. His figure was like an illusion, and in an instant, he had already caught up with the thin man. Oh no! The thin man's face changed abruptly, and he fled with all his might. Tawa Zampir, it's fate that we meet. Why leave in a hurry? Lin Sun increasingly felt that there was something wrong with this guy. I still have important things to do. How can I waste time on you? Retreat quickly and don't block my way, or you won't be able to bear the consequences." The thin man shouted harshly, looking dignified and cold. Crack! As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Sun slapped him on the forehead, causing him to scream and stagger, almost falling from the void. "How dare you? Don't you know who I am? Boy, you're finished. Since you've offended me, no one in the world can save you," he roared. "Still pretending? Let's see how long you can pretend." Lin Sun sneered and rushed up to slap him hard. The thin man screamed again and again. His forehead was red and swollen, and he was so angry that he almost went mad. His shrill cries constantly drifted in the night sea, scaring the fish under the sea and making them flee in panic. In the end, the thin man gave in and cried for mercy. "Young master, please spare my life, please spare my life. Hey, weren't you very arrogant just now? How did you become like this now?" Old Toad also came to join in the fun and ridiculed the thin man. Immediately, Old Toad seemed to find something and suddenly showed a strange smile. "Damn it, this guy turns out to be a tortoise. Now it's easy. Let's make a pot of tortoise soup later. It's also delicious." The thin man shivered all over and was so scared that tears almost flowed out. His appearance was so unbearable that Lin Sun shook his head. Who could have imagined that the guy who was so arrogant just now would be such a coward? On the boat, before Lin Sun could interrogate him, the thin man confessed everything. It turned out that his name was Wushang. He was a 1,000-year-old tortoise who had cultivated into a spirit. Now he followed Qin Yunyang, the holy son of the Green Turtle tribe, as a servant. Green Turtle tribe. When he heard this, Lin Sun immediately thought of an old friend, and his expression was a little strange. "With your little ability, you still want to chase after that demoness? What a joke!" Old Toad was disdainful. "I'm just a spy. I'm only responsible for tracking the demoness whereabouts. When the real fight starts, there will be a master who will come in person." Wushang hurriedly explained. Lin Sun asked curiously, "How on earth did that demoness offend your holy son?" Wushang gnashed his teeth. "This woman is so audacious that she stole the treasure of our Green Turtle tribe a few days ago. If we don't capture and kill her, where will the face of our Green Turtle tribe be?" "What treasure?" Old Toad's eyes lit up. Wushang hesitated for a moment and hesitated, unwilling to say it. Old Toad was annoyed and was about to torture him. Who would have thought that Wushang would confess without any backbone, which made Old Toad despise him. It turned out that the treasure was called 1,000 Manifestations Banner. It was an ancient treasure with unfathomable uses. It was said that this treasure contained mysterious mysteries and could be used to deduce one's own cultivation path, check for deficiencies, solve many problems in cultivation, and avoid going astray. What a good treasure! Old Toad immediately coveted it. This kind of ancient treasure was indeed unique and rare, and its uses were marvelous. Yes, in our Green Turtle tribe, only the Holy Sun is qualified to have such a treasure. Who would have thought that it would be stolen by that demoness? Wushang sighed. Lin Sun thought of the beautiful girl named Ah Hu. Was the truth really as Wushang said? Next, Lin Sun asked some other questions. The cowardly and spineless Wushang was very cooperative and told him everything he knew. It turned out that this sea area was called South Sea, which still belonged to the Soul Oblivion Sea. It was tens of thousands of miles away from the ultimate. In the South Sea area, there were many ethnic forces, either entrenched in the deep sea or living on the islands in the sea. The Green Turtle tribe was one of these ethnic forces. Knowing this, Lin Sun and Old Toad looked at each other and became vigilant. They had offended too many ethnic forces. Although they had escaped, as long as they didn't leave the South Sea, their situation would always be threatened. "We must leave as soon as possible." After making up his mind, Lin Sun continued to ask about Cloud Canopy Bazaar. "Childs, I have told you everything I know. I hope you can let me go for the sake of our Green Turtle tribe." In the end, Wushang begged in a sad voice, the holy son of our tribe is nearby. If he knows, are you threatening us? Asked Old Toad. Wushang hurriedly waved his hands in fright. I wouldn't dare. But you should know that with your strength, I'm afraid. I'm afraid, Lin Sun smiled faintly. I'm afraid we can't fight against your green turtle tribe, right? Wushang was embarrassed and acquiesced. Don't worry. When I see your holy son, I'll let you go immediately. Lin Sun pondered for a while before speaking. You want to see the holy son of our tribe? Wushang was surprised and couldn't believe his ears. Who on earth were these two guys? They were too bold. Weren't they afraid of death? Are you really going to do this? Old Toad was also a little surprised. Wushang had already been knocked unconscious, so they didn't have to worry about being overheard. I have no choice. You heard what that guy said. If you want to participate in the treasure auction in the Cloud Canopy Bazaar, you have to be recommended. Otherwise, you won't even be qualified to participate. Lin Sun sighed. If we can't participate, we won't be able to get the vast universe Arkansas. Without this treasure, we can't cross the Soul Oblivion Sea with just the two of us. Old Toad frowned. Do you really believe that witch's nonsense? Lin Sun shrugged. Whether it's true or not, I have to try to know. Old Toad was puzzled. But why do you want to see the holy son of the Green Turtle tribe? Don't tell me you're thinking of asking him to recommend you to participate in the treasure auction? Lin Sun's lips curled into an intriguing arc. I said, if I don't try, how will I know? One day later. In the early morning, the blue gem-like sea was sprinkled with a bright luster by the morning sun, looking vast and magnificent. Woo woo woo, it wasn't long before a boundless horn resounded from the surface of the sea in the distance, and it shook the heavens and the earth. They're here. Wushang was in high spirits and excited. What a great battle! Chapter 633. The sound of a bugle horn resounded across the surface of the sea. A majestic troop sailed over from the distance. It was a huge green turtle king with a length of thousands of meters. It swam in the sea like a floating land. On the back of the green turtle king, there was a 9-story palace, which seemed to be made of white jade and was full of magnificent luster in the morning light. The bugle sounds were coming from the white jade palace. Looking carefully, on both sides of the huge green turtle king, there were 2 rows of guards with shiny armors. They walked on the waves with their banners fluttering, showing a solemn atmosphere. The sudden appearance of such a team on this vast and boundless azure sea naturally attracted a lot of attention. 9th Heaven White Jade Tower. Is the old ancestor here in person? Wu Chong trembled all over, and his eyes were full of shock. Old ancestor? Lin Sun's black eyes flashed with a touch of light. Is it the big shot who returned to your Green Turtle clan a few years ago? How do you know? Wu Chong was surprised. Lin Sun smiled and didn't say anything, but he sighed with emotion in his heart that it was really a coincidence. Wu Chong, didn't you go to find the whereabouts of the witch? Why are you here? Who are those 2 guys? Before long, the mighty team approached. A capable middle-aged man stood on the back of the Green Turtle King and asked, Greetings, Deacon. Wu Chong hurriedly saluted and said respectfully, These 2 childs are here to visit the Holy Sun. Visit the Holy Sun? The deacon glanced at Lin Sun and Old Toad and frowned. Well, come up and talk with me first. Immediately, Lin Sun put away the boat and stepped on the Green Turtle King with Old Toad. Then, the team continued to move forward in the sea without delay. May I know your names, and why do you come to visit the Holy Sun? The deacon asked aloud. Sorry, I wanted to visit your Holy Sun, but now I changed my mind. I want to visit your old ancestor. Lin Sun cupped his hands and said. Unexpectedly, the deacon was stunned and couldn't believe his ears. You want to see the old ancestor? Are the 2 of you joking? 2 strange young men suddenly came to see the old ancestor of the Green Turtle clan. This seemed too ridiculous. Why did you change your mind? Wushang was stunned as well, and his entire body shivered. How could a figure like the ancestor be someone that just anyone could meet? Weren't these two fellows too rash? Lin Sun said, "Please report that an old friend has come to visit. I believe as long as your ancestor." Impudent! Before he finished speaking, the chief deacon's face darkened. "I think the two of you are here to cause trouble. What do you take my green turtle tribe for? How dare you claim to be an old friend of my ancestor? Who gave you the guts?" He was thoroughly annoyed. What kind of status did their old ancestor have? How could he become friends with two youths of unknown origins? This was simply absurd. The faces of some Green Turtle Clan guards nearby also became unfriendly. "Are you suspecting us?" Old Toad's face darkened. "Humph! I don't know how many madmen like you have seen over the years. I advise you to leave quickly, or don't blame us for being rude." The chief deacon scolded and became more and more impolite. Lin Sun felt a little helpless and said seriously, "Whether it's true or not, I just hope that you can help me to report." Once again, he was interrupted before he finished speaking. The chief deacon's face was cold and he said sternly, "Drive them out. If they dare to resist, it's okay to kill them." Yes. The guards nearby had been waiting impatiently for a long time. Hearing this, they immediately took the order and looked at Lin Sun and Old Toad with murderous eyes. Lin Sun couldn't help frowning. At this moment, a deep voice came from the 9th Heaven White Jade Tower. "Who's making noise? Don't you know the old ancestor is meditating?" The voice was full of anger, which made the chief deacon and the guards stiff and their faces changed slightly. "Son, calm down. There are two little guys making trouble. They'll be solved soon," the chief deacon hurriedly explained. "Someone is making trouble?" With a swish, an imposing figure swept out of the palace and looked at the scene with eyes like lightning. This man was dressed in a dark green robe, with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. He was tall and had an outstanding demeanor, and his eyes were like bright lightning. "Greetings, son." All the people present saluted respectfully. Obviously, he was Qin Yunyang, the son of the Green Turtle tribe. "What the hell is going on?" Qin Yunyang frowned and fixed his eyes on Lin Sun and Old Toad. He found that the two of them didn't have a trace of fear, but looked very calm, which made him feel that something was wrong. The chief deacon hurriedly stepped forward and explained in a low voice. "Want to see the old ancestor?" Qin Yunyang was also surprised, and his eyes flashed with cold light. When he looked at Lin Sun and Old Toad again, his attitude had become a little cold. "Wu Chong, you brought these two people back. Tell me what the hell is going on?" Qin Yunyang asked. Being stared at by Qin Yunyang, Wu Chong broke out in a cold sweat. He was so scared that his face turned pale and he was out of his wits. With a thud, he knelt on the ground. Lin Sun narrowed his eyes and cursed inwardly. This Wu Chong was a complete coward with no backbone at all. If he told the ins and outs of the matter, it would inevitably lead to a great misunderstanding. But it was too late for Lin Sun to stop him. Wu Chong cried out with a long face, "Son, this has nothing to do with me at all. I was forced by them." With tears streaming down his face, he told everything about how he had met Lin Sun and Old Toad and how he had been coerced. This made Lin Sun and Old Toad speechless and gave them a headache. Qin Yunyang's face had become extremely gloomy, and he laughed out of extreme anger. "What a pair of audacious thieves! They didn't say anything when they threatened my servant, but they still dare to come here and behave atrociously. They are simply tired of living." "Saint, please calm down. Leave these two villains to me to deal with." The chief deacon was murderous. It's over. This is bad." Old Toad complained. "I told you this method wouldn't work, but you just had to try it. Now I'm also going to suffer." Lin Sun was also speechless. He felt that he had been very polite, but the other side didn't listen at all and even regarded them as evil thieves. He simply couldn't say anything. "What are you waiting for? Capture them for me!" the chief deacon roared. All of a sudden, All the nearby guards took action and surrounded Lin Sun and the old toad fiercely. Wait! Lin Sun's voice was like a clap of thunder, full of deterring power that struck straight into people's hearts. It was just one sentence, but it shocked the guards so much that their heads buzzed. Their chi was almost disordered, and they staggered and exclaimed. Qin Yunyang's eyes shot out a cold light. He seemed to be aware of Lin Sun's extraordinariness and was a little surprised. Immediately, his face darkened and he sneered. It turns out that you have something to rely on. However, I have to say that you are really bold to come here to make trouble with just the two of you. As I said, I just came to visit an old friend. You just need to inform him, and then you will know whether it's true or not. Lin Sun took a deep breath and explained patiently. Old friend? Qin Yunyang was completely angry. At this time, this guy still regarded the old ancestor of the Green Turtle tribe as an old friend, which was extremely arrogant. How could the old ancestor have such an old friend? Stubborn and unrepentant. In this case, don't think about leaving here alive today. Qin Yunyang's eyes were full of killing intent. With a clang, he took out a fiery red saber and rushed towards Lin Sun in person. Is it so difficult to just inform him? Lin Sun sighed in his heart. Boom. This area was covered with terrible killing intent, showing Qin Yunyang's terrible fighting capacity. This made the chief deacon and the attendants excited. The Holy Sun actually made a move personally. Now there will be a good show to watch. If these two villains die in the hands of the Holy Sun, it will be a kind of luck. Ordinary people are not qualified for the Holy Sun to make a move personally. For a time, Qin Yunyang became the focus of the whole audience, and many guards even showed a look of respect. Even they rarely saw Qin Yunyang make a move. This was an extremely rare opportunity to observe. In the blink of an eye, Qin Yunyang attacked. The fiery red saber had already set off a sea of fire, which covered Lin Sun. Rumble the void was burning, riddled with holes, and the scene was terrible. Why, Lin Sun couldn't help but sigh again. He stood there, motionless, and just waved his sleeve. The sea of fire, which covered the sky, seemed to be swept away by a hurricane. In an instant, it collapsed and turned into a rain of light that disappeared without a trace. This, all the experts present stared with their eyes wide open, and the excitement on their faces froze on the spot. He only waved his sleeve and destroyed the powerful attack of the Holy Sun? Even Qin Yunyang's heart shook fiercely at this moment, and his expression became even more icy cold. Looks like all of you came prepared. Boom. As he spoke, he slashed out once more. The saber light shot out violently, and it was peerlessly dazzling like a rain of light that was filled with a terrifying aura. Many people were visibly moved, and they realized that Qin Yunyang had executed a lethal move. But Lin Sun was slightly impatient. Earlier, he'd made a move to tell Qin Yunyang to stop before going too far. Who would have imagined that Qin Yunyang would actually push his luck? He didn't hesitate any longer and stretched out his hand to slap out. The light green palm force was coiled with a smooth and translucent aura, and it lightly flashed out. But in the next moment, a rumbling sound resounded out. It was the sound of the void collapsing, and it seemed to be utterly unable to endure this palm force. Bang! Under the horrified gazes of the crowd, Qin Yunyang's saber was simply as vulnerable as a piece of paper, and it collapsed and dissipated with a bang. And the remaining momentum of the palm force didn't diminish, and it crushed towards Qin Yunyang with an irresistible momentum. It seemed to have enveloped the entire world, and it made the latter unable to avoid it. Qin Yunyang's face changed completely, and he realized an unprecedented danger, which made him shocked, angry, and confused. He was a holy son, and it was rare for him to encounter an opponent in the same realm. He had always been regarded as the #1 person in the younger generation of the Green Turtle clan, and he looked down upon all his peers. But now, the battle had just begun, but it made him feel an indescribable feeling of suffocation and oppression, and all the hairs on his body stood on end. How could it be possible? Chapter 634. The palm energy was simple, suffused with cyan Taoist aura, and had an irresistible and unparalleled power. Qin Yunyang's expression changed again and again. He exerted a secret method and tried his best to resolve it. But to his horror, the palm energy was condensed and didn't disperse. It was like an unshakable mountain, moving all the way. No matter how he attacked, he couldn't resist it. He was forced to retreat. The whole audience was in an uproar, and their eyeballs almost fell out. Qin Yunyang was the holy son of their Green Turtle clan, but he couldn't even take one palm? 1 step, 2 step, 3 step. Accompanied by the rumbling and crushing of the palm energy, Qin Yunyang's face turned red. He resisted crazily, but in the end he was still forced to retreat. This made him more and more shocked. His face was extremely pale, and he almost went crazy. It was just one palm energy, but he couldn't resolve it? Boom! There was no time to think. The palm energy seemed smooth and simple, but it was condensed and terrifying to the extreme, and it kept crushing. It seemed slow, but in fact it was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, Qin Yunyang had been forced to retreat more than 10 steps. Seeing that the palm energy was about to cover and oppress his body, Qin Yunyang finally couldn't bear the fear in his heart. He dodged to one side and didn't dare to face it head-on. Crash! But at the same time he dodged, the palm energy, like a ripple, trembled slightly, and then disappeared without a trace. "Thank you for letting me win." At the same time, Lin Sun spoke with a calm expression. Obviously, at this last moment, he stopped while he was ahead and took the initiative to withdraw the palm energy. That kind of control over the release and withdrawal of power caused the nearby guards to shudder with fear and trepidation. No matter how stupid they were, they also realized that Lin Sun was not an ordinary person at all. Otherwise, how could it be possible to force their holy son to retreat with just one palm? Too terrible! Who on earth was he? The whole audience was silent, not a sound could be heard. Qin Yunyang's face was livid and uncertain, and there was an unspeakable grievance in his heart. He couldn't accept this result. Old Toad, who had been watching from the side, actually wanted to say, "Boy, you'd better be content." In the Demon Saint's secret realm, who knew how many holy sons were killed by Lin Sun, let alone you? But in the end, Old Toad still restrained himself. He didn't want to provoke Qin Yunyang, lest this guy went completely crazy, and the situation was a little bad. Clap, clap, clap. In this deathly silent atmosphere, a round of applause rang out. Suddenly, an azure-robed young man had walked out from the 9 Heavens white jade pavilion, and he clapped as he walked, and his footsteps were unhurried and indescribably composed. The old Toad's pupils immediately shrank and its heart trembled. It felt an incomparably terrifying and oppressive aura from this green-robed youth. It was as if he was facing a king who was looking down on the world. There was no need to guess. This green-robed young man was definitely a life-and-death realm king. Patriarch. At this moment, the Grand Manager and all the guards present were dumbstruck. They recognized the identity of the person who'd arrived, and they bowed in unison. They cried out inwardly, feeling terrified inside. The disturbance here actually made the old ancestor personally come out. The consequences of this were just too severe. If they were to be blamed, they would not be able to escape responsibility. "Greetings, old ancestor." Qin Yunyang's complexion was gloomy and ashen. He stepped forwards and bowed. "This grandson is ashamed. I've let the old ancestor see a joke." It's over, it's really over this time," the old Toad murmured. Even a life-and-death realm king was alarmed. This was too serious. The Holy Sun is not to be blamed for this matter. It's all my ignorance. I didn't know these two villains came prepared, so that I alarmed the old ancestor. Please punish me." The Grand Manager stepped forward and knelt on the ground, his face full of fear. As for Wu Bing, he had already prostrated on the ground in fear, shivering all over. His clothes were soaked in cold sweat, and his face was wrinkled. He wanted to cry but had no tears. This time, it was he who drew Lin Sun here. If the old ancestor blamed him, he would definitely take the main responsibility, and the result would be unimaginable. But the strange thing was that at this moment, the green-robed young man didn't pay attention to them at all. Instead, he looked directly at Lin Sun and said angrily, "Why did you suddenly stop?" Qin Yunyang was stunned. What did the old ancestor mean? Was he being sarcastic? The Grand Manager, who was kneeling on the ground, boasted of his cleverness and hurriedly flattered, "With the old ancestor here, how dare these villains commit murder?" Yes, the old ancestor's divine power is unparalleled, just like a divine dragon in the sky. How dare those villains do it again? The other guards hurriedly echoed him. Suddenly, Lin Sun's expression became strange, and he said, "Elder brother, if I continue to fight, it will really be regarded as a troublemaker. Are you really willing to do that, elder brother?" Hearing this address, Qin Yunyang's eyes widened. How dare this guy call their old ancestor so casually? He deserved to die 10,000 times. And the Grand Manager was so angry that he almost went crazy. He shouted sternly, "How dare you? How dare you blaspheme our old ancestor? Villains like you must atone for their crimes with death." Only the old toad felt a little strange, and his eyes kept rolling between the green-robed young man and Lin Sun. "Fuck off. What villains? You dog slave, you have eyes but fail to see." But the green-robed young man seemed to feel a little embarrassed, and he suddenly kicked the Grand Manager. With a plop, the Grand Manager was kicked away. Like a broken sandbag, his body fell into the sea hundreds of meters away, screaming incessantly. And when they witnessed this scene, Qin Yunyang was stupefied. Those guards were stupefied as well, and they had stupefied expressions. What was going on? Why did the old ancestor suddenly attack his own people? "Old ancestor, what are you doing?" Qin Yunyang was a little anxious. "Humph! Useless thing, I'll deal with you later." The green-robed young man glared at him, which made the latter stiff and dull. What the hell was going on? At this time, the green-robed young man no longer paid attention to him. He stepped forward with a laugh, patted Lin Sun on the shoulder and said, "I really didn't expect that you would suddenly appear here, which surprised me." Lin Sun's shoulder bone was almost broken. He grimaced in pain and said, "Elder brother, be gentle." The green-robed young man suddenly laughed. "Don't worry, I won't slap you to death. Come on, come with me, this is not a good place to talk." Saying this, he put his arm around Lin Sun's shoulder and walked towards the 9th heaven white jade tower in the distance. "Come on, arrange a banquet. Today I'm going to entertain my sworn brother. By the way, take out my treasured fiery floating cloud liquor." In the hearty laughter, the green-robed young man and Lin soon disappeared from the palace. In the field, Qin Yunyang and the others all stood there with their mouths wide open, as if they had seen a ghost. Even the old toad couldn't react, standing there in a daze. Is he really an old friend of the old ancestor? After a long time, someone opened his mouth in a trembling voice. Crack! As soon as the words came out, he was slapped next to him. "Idiot! Didn't you hear that the old ancestor said that the young man, no, the senior is the old ancestor's sworn brother? My God!" The guards looked at each other in dismay, and their expressions were extremely wonderful. It turned out that the young man didn't lie, but really had an unusual relationship with the old ancestor. Plop! Wu Bing, who was crawling on the ground, rolled his eyes, foamed at the mouth, and fainted with fright. This made people not know whether to laugh or cry. But Wu Bing didn't think so. Just now, when he thought of his spineless confession, just now, which made everyone regard Lin Sun and the others as villains, he had an impulse to die. That was the old ancestor's sworn brother. But he was betrayed by himself, at the thought of all kinds of serious consequences caused by this matter. Wu Bing, who was originally very timid, completely collapsed and directly chose to faint. It turns out to be true. At this moment, Qing Yunyang also recovered a little reason, and his face was stiff and ugly. Why didn't you say it earlier? He looked at the old toad in the distance. Nonsense, how many times have we said it? The point is that you don't believe it. The old toad rolled his eyes, turned his head and walked away. He held his head high and strode away in high spirits, leaving Qing Yunyang staring at him. At this time, the old toad finally understood why Lin Sun was so confident. It turned out that he was the sworn brother of the old ancestor of the green turtle tribe. This is 2F** King Awesome. On the 9th floor of the 9th Heaven White Jade Tower, in a magnificent and elegant hall. I remember that it has been almost 2 years since we left the ancient relic. Brother, you have become a great practitioner of Tao Insight Realm from a little practitioner of Martial Realm, which really surprised me. The green-robed young man sat cross-legged on the main seat with a face full of amazement. He was naturally the Green Turtle King. On the way to the Forbidden City for the first time, Lin Sun accidentally got involved in a void vortex and appeared in an ancient relic in the depths of the Soul Oblivion Sea. It was also there that Lin Sun met the Green Turtle King, who had been trapped in it for thousands of years. In the end, it was also with the help of the Amrita Saint Pearl in Lin Sun's hand that the trapped Green Turtle King had a chance to get out. I didn't expect that you had become the old ancestor of the Green Turtle tribe. Lin Sun couldn't help sighing with emotion. In the ancient relic, the old ancestor of the Green Turtle tribe had said that he was more than 2,600 years old. But in the Green Turtle tribe, 2,000 years old was the growth period. In other words, he was no different from a teenager in human beings. It was for this reason that Lin Sun was happy to call him brother at that time. Unexpectedly, the other party was already an old ancestor when they met again. Ha ha ha, in this case, how can you conclude that I am one of the old ancestors of the Green Turtle tribe? The green-robed young man laughed. Lin Sun smiled and told him everything about the interrogation of Wu Chong. Then he said, "At that time I also doubted whether it was you, so I came to have a try. Unexpectedly I guessed right. This is fate." The green-robed young man smiled. Following that, they chatted one after another as they drank and reminisced about the past. The atmosphere was quite harmonious. Lin Sun breathed a sigh of relief. To be honest, he was not sure whether the green-robed young man still remembered the old friendship after 2 years. But now it seemed that he didn't have to worry too much. It was worth mentioning that the green-robed young man was called Green Lai, who called himself the Green Turtle King. He was free and unruly and proud, which was very different from the ordinary old antiques. His temperament was no different from that of a young man. Perhaps it was because of his unruly temperament that he was grateful for Lin Sun's life-saving grace when they met for the first time and became sworn brothers with Lin Sun. He didn't neglect Lin Sun because of his low cultivation. Chapter 635. Gurgle. The clear and sweet sky-blue liquor was poured into a white jade cup, and a string of bright red bubbles appeared at the bottom of the cup. Every single bubble seemed to have an expanse of clouds floating within it, and they swayed lightly and drew out a scene that was magnificent and dreamlike. This was the liquor, fiery floating cloud. This was a peerless aged wine that Qing Lai had collected, and it was refined from 136 types of rare treasures that were suppressed within the flame-glow ice soul jade. Lin Sun picked up the cup and drank it up. Suddenly, the taste buds on the tip of his tongue seemed to explode. There was a kind of ultimate sweet fragrance and fiery breath colliding and entangling, raging in his mouth. When it flowed into his throat, the ultimate ice and fire breath turned into a warm and pure flavor, spreading in his limbs and bones in an instant. In an instant Lin Sun shuddered. His pores opened, and his mouth and nose breathed in and out an indescribable smell. It was like all kinds of life, lingering with all kinds of tastes, leaving an endless aftertaste. Good liquor! Lin Sun exclaimed. This liquor contained an indescribable artistic taste. After drinking it, it was like watching all kinds of life in the mortal world and tasting the ups and downs of the world. It was too wonderful for words. Hey, this liquor is wonderful. It can be used to sharpen one's state of mind and get rid of evil. With just one cup, you won't have to worry about the risk of qigong deviation when you advance. Qing Lai smiled proudly. I see that you have just stepped into the middle realm of Tao insight. This liquor is the best for consolidating your state of mind. Brother, can I have another cup? Old Toad smiled flatteringly, drooling. Qing Lai hurriedly put away the gourd and snorted, Be content. This liquor is limited, and the value of one cup is equivalent to that of a peerless spiritual medicine. On the table, there were all kinds of delicacies, which were the specialties of the sea, unique and rare. Not to mention in Xiao Empire, even in Soul Oblivion Sea, ordinary people could not enjoy such delicacies. It could be seen that Qing Lai was really attentive when entertaining Lin Sun. Brother, are you also going to Cloud Canopy Bazaar? Lin Sun couldn't help being surprised when he learned Qing Lai's purpose. What a coincidence! What? Are you going to join in the fun too? Qing Lai asked. Immediately, Lin Sun spoke of the matter of him bidding for the vast universe Arkansas. You mean you want to return to Xiao Empire by this boat? Why is that? Qing Lai asked in surprise. Lin Sun had no choice but to give a brief account of what had happened in the secret realm of monsters. Hearing this, Qing Lai gasped and stared at Lin Sun, shouting, So you are the young devil god of the human clan? Lin Sun was stunned. Brother, have you heard of it? There was a strange look in Qing Lai's eyes, as if he was getting to know Lin Sun all over again. Damn it, the news about the young demon god has already spread like wildfire among all the major forces in the southern CC. I'm not deaf, so of course I know about it. When he spoke up to hear, he was still in slight disbelief. But all of this was done by you? Aren't you a little too savage? He's more than savage. He's a freak. Old Toad, who was engrossed in the food, added. I was forced to do this. I don't want to provoke others either. But brother, you should know that when it comes to snatching fortuitous encounters, killing is inevitable. Lin Sun felt helpless. He did feel very innocent. Qing Lai was in a daze for a while. Then, he burst into laughter and pointed at Lin Sun, saying, You've gained a lot from this trip. I heard that you're the one who gained the most in the secret realm of monsters. Then, Qing Lai couldn't help asking more about what had happened in the secret realm of monsters. Except for some extremely secret things, Lin Sun didn't hide anything and told him everything. So, Grandma Tiansha of the Dragon Whale clan was really killed by an old ape who had stepped into the sage realm. Qing Lai was deep in thought. He was shocked that no sage had appeared in the Soul Oblivion Sea for so many years. But there was a living sage in the secret realm of monsters. This news was so shocking that Qing Lai had to pay attention to it. After a long time, he muttered to himself, Perhaps this unprecedented calamity is really about to arrive, the catastrophe of the Great Way. Hearing this, Lin Sun's eyelids twitched. He remembered what Zhao Jingxian had said. In 100 years at most, the real battle of the world, or the real world of chaos, would come. And all this was because of the catastrophe of the Great Way. After a while, Qing Lai sighed. It's a pity that I can't go far in the near future. Otherwise, I could personally send you back to Xiao Empire. He changed the subject, but I can help you buy the vast universe arc and give it to you. Just when Lin Sun was about to refuse, Qing Lai said, Don't refuse. All the participants in this treasure auction are big shots of all clans. There are many life-death realm kings like me. You've made too many enemies now, so it's not good for you to show up in public. It's safest for me to help you. Lin Sun was shocked. It was just a treasure auction, but it attracted so many life-death realm kings, which was very unusual. Thank you, brother. Lin Sun looked solemn. It's a piece of cake. Qing Lai smiled. Later, the two talked about the antiquity relic where they met for the first time. Qing Lai told Lin Sun that the relic was also located in the ultimate. Although it was completely different from the Demon Saint's secret realm, it was no less dangerous and mysterious than the Demon Saint's secret realm. In other words, there were also great opportunities in the antiquity relic. Unfortunately, the entrance could not be found, as if it had disappeared into thin air, which made Qing Lai feel quite regretful. He had been trapped in the first layer of the antiquity relic for thousands of years. According to his speculation, there was a second layer, a third layer, and even more mysterious places in the relic. Maybe when the catastrophe of the Great Way comes, the secrets in the ultimate will have a chance to reappear in the world. This was Qing Lai's speculation. At the end of the banquet, Qing Lai suddenly looked at Old Toad and said, "Brother, when we arrive at the Cloud Pung Bazaar, can you let this little brother of the three-legged golden toad come with me?" "My pleasure." Before Lin Sun could answer, Old Toad had already agreed eagerly and excitedly. Since this treasure auction could attract so many life-death realm kings, there must be many incredible treasures that would be auctioned. For Old Toad, who regarded treasures as his life, this was an irresistible temptation. Ha ha ha, with little brother accompanying me, I might really be able to discover some good treasures in this treasure auction. Green Turtle King laughed. He was very clear about the ability of the three-legged golden toad, which was known as the unique ability to identify all the treasures in the world. Hey hey! Old Toad laughed proudly and squinted at Lin Sun, as if to say, "Look, this is the one who has a pair of sharp eyes, unlike you, who has eyes but can't recognize Mount Tai." Lin Sun gritted his teeth secretly. This toad was getting more and more annoying a few hours later. In the distance, an island appeared from the sea in the far distance. It was extremely huge and stretched for thousands of miles. Above the island, the brilliant light of treasures soared into the sky, which was extremely conspicuous. The island was called Cloud Pung. Cloud Pung Bazaar was located on it. According to what Qing Lai said, Cloud Canopy Bazaar had existed since the ancient times, and it had a long history. Its purpose was for the sake of allowing the beings of various races to interact and trade with each other. Up to now, when the major races of Soul Oblivion Sea traded with each other, they often chose to do business in Cloud Pung Bazaar. It could be said that Cloud Pung Bazaar was a trade center in the depths of Soul Oblivion Sea, where rare treasures circulated in the world. Every day, countless treasures and rare treasures were traded in it. It was extremely lively and prosperous. When they arrived at this sea area, many figures of all kinds had begun to appear along the way. There were huge teams and groups of practitioners of all races, which were densely packed and whistling from all directions, which was quite spectacular. Their goal was the same as that of Green Turtle Tribe, which was to rush to Cloud Pung Bazaar, which seemed very lively. "Yunyang, you are responsible for entertaining my brother when we arrive at Cloud Pung Bazaar. When I finish my business, I will come to you. If you dare to neglect me, I will be the first one who won't spare you." Qing Lai called Qing Yunyang over and gave him instructions. Qing Yunyang's face was stiff, but he still agreed respectfully, although he was still a little aggrieved. A teenager, even younger than him, had become the sworn brother of his ancestor, which made him feel very depressed and unable to lower his head. "What's the matter? Are you not convinced?" Qing Lai's face darkened as if he had seen through Qing Yunyang's mind. "I dare not." Qing Yunyang shook his head quickly. "Then I'll be troubling you." Lin Sun smiled and cupped his hands. Qing Yunyang's lips twitched a little, and he nodded with difficulty. He was extremely depressed in his heart. As the holy son of Green Turtle Tribe, he was reduced to the role of a waiter, and the one he served was a teenager. How could he not be depressed? But he had no choice. No matter how depressed he was, he could only pinch his nose and accept it. After all, this guy was the sworn brother of their ancestor. According to seniority, Chen Shi was in the same generation as his grandfather. Then, wouldn't he be in the same generation as Chen Shi's grandson? At the thought of this, Qin Yunyang was depressed. He couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart and felt uncomfortable all over. Don't worry. We have our own business. As long as you cooperate well, I won't deliberately embarrass you. Lin Sun's voice came into his ears, which made Qin Yunyang stunned, and then he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. This couldn't be better. But Qing Lai seemed to be a little worried. After the team arrived at Cloud Peng Island, he called Qin Yunyang to one side alone to talk. No one knew what they talked about. In short, when Qin Yunyang faced Lin Sun again, Lin Sun immediately found that this guy had changed. Qin Yunyang looked at Lin Sun with a kind of indescribable complexity, including fear, doubt, and a kind of unspeakable surprise. Lin Sun's heart moved, and he vaguely guessed some reasons. Chapter 636. Cloud Peng Island. Flourishing like water, all sorts of unique styles of buildings stood in great numbers. Some were rough and magnificent, some were resplendent and ancient, and so on and so forth. This was the trade center of the major clans in the South Sea. All the clans lived here, so the architectural style on the street was full of the unique style of each clan. For example, the shop opened by the Herculean Ox clan had an extremely rough architectural style, and the sign was branded with the shadow of a Herculean ox demon, which could be seen at a glance. It was an enormous palace that was shaped like a bird's nest and completely bright golden, and it was the shop that belonged to the Gold Phoenix clan. It was in the morning, and the sky was bright. The Cloud Peng Island was very lively, with strong practitioners of all clans shuttling back and forth. The hustle and bustle resounded in every area. There were not only a variety of shops, but also many scattered stalls, markets, restaurants, arenas, and other places of entertainment. Walking in it was like entering a strange world. Creatures of all clans could be seen everywhere, such as dragon whales, water apes, clams, bashes, and other clans in the sea. There were also creatures of blood lions, cyan falcons, golden phoenixes, and demonic elephants on the island. There were even more bizarre creatures, such as the bronze ant clan, which looked like ants but was more than 3 meters high, and the iron eagle clan, which had black wings and an eagle's head and a human's body. However, no matter what clans they were, most of them would dress up as practitioners. Only a few clans would show up with their original appearance. It's really lively here, on the noisy street. Lin Sun walked leisurely with his hands behind his back. He felt it was novel and interesting to look around. There were so many clans here, which was an eye-opener for him. The only regret was that Lin hadn't met a practitioner of the human clan along the way. This made him vaguely guess that there was no place for human clans in the depths of the Soul Oblivion Sea. Look! The meat buns made of undersea toad worm are juicy and fresh. I only sell them for 10 sea crystals. Child, would you like to taste the heavenly fragrance dew wine specially brewed by the Green Hornet clan? It's made of the powder of hundreds of spiritual flowers collected by our clan's liquor priest. The price is fair and honest. Big sale. Crazy sale. This is 100 treasures pouch made by the Blood Soul race's unique craftsmanship. Inside is an acre of high-grade spirit farmland and 3 800 feet wide treasure ponds. It's definitely a must-have divine artifact for your travels. All kinds of shouts and peddlers rang out one after another. In a trance, Lin Sun thought that he was back to the bustling city of Xiao Empire, and the smell of the secular world blew on his face. Do you have sea crystals? Lin Sun stopped and turned his head to ask Qin Yunyang beside him. The corner of Qin Yunyang's mouth twitched. He threw out a storage pouch and said, "There are 10,000 sea crystals inside. It's enough for you to spend." "Thank you very much." Lin Sun put it away with a smile. Next, he began his sweeping operation. The Neon Cloud Tribe's specialty 8 delicacies Tonghulu, the Golden Thread Snake Tribe's steamed toad worm meat buns, the Green Hornet tribe's heavenly fragrance dew wine, all kinds of exotic delicacies, aged wines, snacks were bought by Lin Sun without hesitation. In other words, whenever Lin Sun saw something strange along the way, he would buy it with a wave of his hand. These were all the specialties of the tribes in Soul Oblivion Sea, which could not be seen in Xiao Empire at all. Although they were not expensive, they were fresh and strange enough. Lin Sun was not sure whether he would have the chance to come to Soul Oblivion Sea again in the future, so he planned to take this opportunity to collect a lot of things. Of course, he bought more for his relatives and friends, such as Xia Ji and Young Ku. Child, this is the fuyuretaining jelly of Shanjing tribe. If a girl takes it, she will stay young forever. Even if you don't need it, you can prepare some for your wives and lovers at home. I'll buy it. How much? I'll buy 100 bottles first. Okay. Similar scenes continued to play out in the following days. This guy is really unreasonable. Qin Yunyang followed Lin Sun all the way. When he saw this scene, his eyes became more and more strange and complicated. Since entering the Cloud Ping Bazaar, he had been a man of few words. In particular, his attitude towards Lin Sun was even more abnormal. He was no longer in conflict, depressed, or resentful. But at the same time, there were feelings of surprise, confusion, shock, and fear in his heart. Is what the old ancestor said true? Is this guy really the young devil god? This doubt was like a thunder, constantly surging in the depths of Qin Yunyang's heart, making him unable to calm down at all. As the holy son of Green Turtle tribe, he naturally learned what had happened in the secret realm of demon saints as soon as possible. However, he couldn't associate Lin Sun with the young devil god at all. The young devil god in the news was overbearing, disdainful, ferocious, and horrible. He had killed all the heroes of various tribes, pushed down countless heroes, and made rivers of blood flow. He was invincible. What's more, in the final battle, he even suppressed 4 top holy sons by himself. His power was like that of a god, and his courage was monstrous. Such a figure was just like a legend, full of colors that could make any peer awe and fear. Even when Qin Yunyang heard the news at the beginning, he was so shocked that he almost couldn't believe all this. But no matter what, Qin Yunyang remembered this young devil god, and even regarded him as a legendary talent who couldn't be defeated. However, the young man before him had an expression that was calm like water from the beginning until the end. His bearing wasn't ordinary, but it was far from being overbearing and ferocious. He was like a handsome boy next door, and he didn't seem to be a legend at all. The thing that caused Qin Yunyang to be most speechless was that since this fellow entered the Cloud Canopy Bazaar, he was like a country bumpkin that had entered the city, looking around and revealing a surprised expression at everything he saw. He had an appearance as if he'd never seen the world, and it was simply embarrassing to the extreme. How could such a guy be the ferocious and unparalleled young devil god? The more Qin Yunyang thought about it, the more puzzled he was. Do you have any more sea crystals? Suddenly, Lin Sun's voice rang in his ears, awakening Qin Yunyang from his chaotic thoughts. How long has it been? You've spent all 10,000 sea crystals? Qin Yunyang was stunned. Well, this Cloud Ping Bazaar really deserves its reputation. There are so many good things that I can't control my hands at all. Lin Sun sighed with emotion. Qin Yunyang almost rolled his eyes. Look at those things you bought. You call them good things? You can fool a child. In the end, Qin Yunyang resisted the urge to complain and gave Lin Sun another 10,000 sea crystals. He was not afraid of Lin Sun, but worried about being scolded by ancestor Qing Lai. You're a good guy. Thank you very much. I'll repay your kindness when I have a chance. Lin Sun glanced at Qin Yunyang with a smile, and then continued his shopping trip. Kindness? As long as you don't make trouble, I'll burn incense in thanks. Qin Yunyang murmured in his heart. But what he didn't expect was that Lin Sun didn't make any trouble, but he spent money like water. In less than 2 hours, Lin Sun asked him for sea crystals 3 times in succession. Lin Sun was not polite at all. And this kind of thing was still going on, although Qin Yunyang was the holy son of Green Turtle tribe with a strong family background. He didn't have many sea crystals with him. When he noticed that Lin Sun spent money at such a terrifying speed, he couldn't bear it at once. This, Qin Yunyang finally couldn't help asking. What's the matter? Lin Sun was bargaining with an old man of Red Dragon tribe in high spirits to buy a pair of pearl hairpins. Hearing this, Lin Sun couldn't help but look back in confusion. Nothing. Qin Yunyang held back when he saw Lin Sun's eyes. It was really difficult for him to stop Lin Sun. As the holy son of Green Turtle tribe, how could he care about some sea crystals? It would be too shameful if it was spread out. But he really felt a little distressed in his heart. What made him most speechless was that Lin Sun spent so many sea crystals to buy some ordinary goods. None of them could catch his eyes at all. It was just like a waste of money. This guy seems to regard me as a fat sheep. Qin Yunyang was very depressed and became more and more silent along the way. Well, it should be about time. It didn't take long for Lin Sun to stop shopping. Qin Yunyang couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. After careful calculation, in less than 2 hours, Lin Sun had spent nearly 80,000 sea crystals. This caused him to jump in fright. 80,000 sea crystals. That was enough to buy a precious heaven-rank treasure. Thanks a lot this time. Lin Sun looked satisfied and said with a smile, "Where are we going next?" "I'm going to a party later. If you don't want to go, you can wait for me nearby," Qin Yunyang said quickly. He followed Lin Sun all the way like a retainer, which was really boring and depressed. It would be better if he could get rid of Lin Sun. "That's a good idea," Lin Sun stroked his chin and muttered. Qin Yunyang was refreshed. "Do you agree?" Lin Sun shook his head and said, "Although the idea is good, I'm not familiar with the people and the place here. If something happens, it will be bad. So, I'd better go with you." Qin Yunyang's lips twitched imperceptibly, and his face was stiff. He squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying and said, Okay. Well, there's no time to lose. Let's set off quickly," Lin Sun said with a smile, as if he didn't notice the change of Qin Yunyang's mood at all. "Follow me." Qin Yunyang turned around and couldn't help showing a trace of heaviness on his face. He became depressed again. "By the way, what's the party?" Lin Sun asked. "It's a party among the core disciples of all clans. No ordinary person can participate in it," Qin Yunyang answered weakly. But soon, he seemed to think of something, and his face became extremely solemn. He stared at Lin Sun and said, "When you arrive at the party, you must not make trouble, and you must not expose your identity. If you don't agree, I won't take you with me even if the old ancestor blames me."